Hi everyone, we hope you're doing well. We're hanging in there though honestly, we haven't been getting much sleep lately. Today, we want to answer a question we get a lot: how do we publish our audiobooks? First, we post most audiobooks on Patreon as paid content. They stay paid for a few months. After that, they become free to listen to on Patreon forever. A few weeks later, we post them on other places like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, things have been a bit slow in terms of new members. So we'd love your help. Please share our site with your friends or in places like Facebook groups, Twitter, X, Discord, Reddit, or novel forums. Even one share can really help us grow. Thanks so much for your support. This ending was pretty ordinary, right? It wasn't anything like you said. You actually tried to trick us. As expected of Ariri. She had just finished it, and yet she didn't notice anything out of place. Even though it was a fake ending, there were many subtle clues that hinted at something being off, but this girl managed to miss all of them. Was it because my foreshadowing was too deep hidden, or is she just too oblivious? Akifumi nodded expressionlessly. Right. He then turned and headed toward the kitchen to pour himself a drink. Humphrey. Ariri proudly lifted her small face, raising a tiny fist to encourage herself. Alright, tonight we're putting in the effort to reach the true ending together. Oh. Mashiro raised her tiny fist and followed Ariri's lead. Miharu, however, wore a reluctant expression. Ariri, maybe we should stop here for now? It seemed like Miharu had noticed something that Ariri hadn't. Eh? Why? Miharu thought for a moment and said, it's already so late, and we spent so much time on just the ordinary ending. Ariri immediately understood Miharu's concern and interrupted. Once we get the hang of it, it'll be much faster. Trust me, we won't take long to find the true ending. Miharu couldn't help but smile wryly. That's not what I meant. Miharu just wanted to find an excuse to get Ariri to stop, but it had turned into this situation instead. The girl couldn't help but look at Akifumi for rescue. Seeing this, Akifumi spoke up. It is actually very easy to unlock the true ending. Just? That's not what I meant. Please, stop talking. Akifumi, of course, didn't hear Miharu's silent cries. In the final chase scene, you just need to find a certain item in a particular room. It's over. Miharu seemed to deflate, her entire body turning pale. Oh, so that's how it is. Ariri blinked, then grinned widely. Despite receiving a spoiler, the girl wasn't the least bit upset. Though self-discovery is crucial in a puzzle game, there are cases where a guide becomes essential. After all, in a situation like this, where everything is the same as before, but the absence of a key item leads to the lack of the true ending, having a guide is incredibly helpful. This just means replaying the game would be a pointless waste of time. Having a guide means they can find the solution quickly. Moreover, Akifumi only provided the idea, he didn't even tell them exactly where the item was, so finding it still relied on their own efforts. Seeing Ariri so happy, Akifumi returned her smile and strolled back to the inner room with his water bottle. Let's see if she's still smiling after this. Let's go. Let's work together and find the true ending. Oh. Ariri and Mashiro, full of determination, turned their focus back to the screen. By the way, I need to talk to Mugio-kun for a moment. You guys go ahead, I'll be right back. As Miharu suddenly dashed off, Ariri scratched her head in confusion. Did she suddenly remember something? Why is she in such a hurry? Forget her, let's find that key item. Ariri declared confidently. Mashiro nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, Miharu entered the room, and Akifumi wore a playful smile. Miharu is getting bolder, huh? Ariri and Mashiro are still outside. What's the difference between them being outside and me coming in? At this point, Miharu paused, realizing what Akifumi meant. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks. Geez. Akifumi didn't continue teasing her, and instead asked, why did you suddenly come in? Because of that game you made. So Miharu has figured it out? Akifumi didn't get an answer to his question. Instead, Miharu sat next to him, resting her head on his chest, her eyes full of affection. She took a deep breath, savoring his scent. It's the real Mugio-kun. Now I can relax. Akifumi was taken aback. This world doesn't have demons, nor any strange magic. Is that so? That sentence said it all. Miharu sighed and then curiously asked, before, you told Ariri not to play, but now you're telling her how to get the true ending? You saw what happened when I told her not to play. That's right, she spent the whole day playing and even dragged Miharu and Mashiro into it. Akifumi shrugged. She won't listen to advice anyway, so why not just let her do it? Even if she gets hurt, I've done my part. She can't blame me. Miharu couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for Ariri outside. Inside the room, The two shared a quiet moment while outside. The other two were still focused on the screen. 10 minutes later. Suddenly, Ariri's scream echoed from outside. The sound of footsteps followed. The door flew open, and Ariri immediately rushed into Akifumi's arms, crying hysterically. So scary, so terrifying. Looking at Ariri, crying uncontrollably in his arms, Akifumi's face remained expressionless. In his mind, a phrase slowly appeared, the clueless loving girl. It seemed to describe someone like Ariri perfectly. Chapter 197, 9 p.m. sharp. At this moment, countless fans of Steins Gate were celebrating wildly. There's a saying, seeing is believing. Although Akifumi claimed on social media yesterday that this would be a happy ending, many fans remained skeptical, thinking he was merely hyping his work. However, upon witnessing the latest plot twist, fans couldn't contain their excitement as they passionately discussed and promoted the series across various forums. Meanwhile, some fans, after basking in the joy, remembered the game they hadn't finished yet, The Witch's House. In this joyful mood, they launched the game, hoping to experience double the happiness. Though there was some overlap between fanbases, among the over 100,000 paying players, there were also pure puzzle and horror enthusiasts. Thanks to Steam's recommendation, these players discovered the game The Witch's House, paid for it, and spent the entire day immersed in it. Unlike casual players like Kazumijouka Utaha, these players specialized in this genre and swiftly cleared the game. Afterward, they eagerly sought the true ending. Upon discovering the method to unlock the true ending and witnessing the final scene, they all felt a chilling shiver down their spines and an overwhelming sense of dread, fear, anguish, and suffering. Yet, after enduring these negative emotions, they couldn't help but exclaim, "What an incredible game! This plot twist is insane. If I hadn't found the true ending, I would have been completely fooled by the fake one. This is outrageous. Are all new creators this monstrous nowadays?" After looking at these comments, the players enthusiastically began tackling the hard mode. It wasn't that they were unaffected by the ending, but these players were pure at heart, only want to play the game. For them, the plot was just one aspect of the game. So, despite the dark storyline, they quickly recovered and dove back in. Of course, as mentioned earlier, while some players enjoy solving puzzles, others are more focused on the story. Take Goko Ruri, an ordinary high school girl from Chiba. However, online, she was known as the infamous fallen saint Black Cat, Kuronko, of Chiba. Ruri was well versed in all things ACG, anime, comics, and games, and excelled at gaming. For her, a truly great game must excel in both gameplay and storytelling. However, achieving a balance between the two is extremely difficult. When she discovered that her favorite creator had suddenly developed a game, Ruri was thrilled. But after the excitement faded, anxiety crept in. Sure, the creator had an exceptional talent for storytelling and had achieved great success in various fields. But could they replicate that success in a completely different medium? After all, venturing into a new field meant starting from scratch. So, when the game was released, Ruri immediately purchased and played it. From last night until today, after repeatedly reaching fake endings and finally discovering the true ending, she was in complete awe of The Witch's House. As expected from the master. This soul-crushing feeling is just as familiar as always. In fact, the emotional impact of this game surpassed any of their previous works. As for the ending, Ruri found it utterly unbearable. As someone with two younger sisters, she couldn't help but imagine if one of her sisters were replaced by the witch and, without knowing the truth, the sheer thought of that heart-wrenching pain overwhelmed her. Dark emotions swirled within her heart. Viola is too beautiful. New waifu +1. This game isn't even that long, yet I've been playing for 5 hours. Has anyone unlocked the true ending yet? As a puzzle game, it's excellent. As a horror game, it's brilliant. But as for the story, it's nothing but a cliché. Although the creator is a newbie in the gaming world, I have to say the story fell short of expectations. Particularly when Ruri saw these shallow comments on Steam during the day, her gloomy emotions exploded. Viola is too beautiful? Sure, she's beautiful, but what if her soul is actually Ellen? 5 hours and still no true ending? How can you be this bad at the game? Cliché story, lacking depth? Hey. You idiots still haven't figured out the truth, and you're blaming the creator? Foolish mortals. You can't even comprehend the creator's final act of mercy. Fine, then. Experience this pain to your heart's content. Goko Ruri's face lit up with a radiant smile. But her eyes were filled with pure darkness. However, before that, I need to beat this game first. Her eyes gleamed as she stared at Steam's rarest achievement, clearing hard mode without saving. And so began several hours of relentless challenge. by the time the sun set and darkness blanketed the sky. Finally, Ruri let out a long breath as she stood before the familiar door. Compared to normal mode, hard mode had significant changes, like you can't save the game while playing, but those changes were trivial to a pro gamer like her. After clearing it once in normal mode, she began her true challenge in hard mode. After 2 failed attempts, she finally reached the familiar door on her 3rd run without a single mistake. Yet, as she stood before the door, something felt off. According to the previous progression, the black cat should have died by now. But this time, the black cat was still alive, standing in front of the door. Did I just accidentally unlock another hidden ending? Ruri immediately recognized the significance of this anomaly. Her heart pounded with excitement. Chapter 198, so that's the trick. The save files were actually the black cat's assistants. The use of its power to assist the player had drained the black cat's strength. So, when a player arrived at this point with save data, the cat, having exhausted all its power, would depart early, leaving behind only a lifeless corpse. Come to think of it, this is so frustrating. Why did it have to be called Black Cat of all things? Even if it had a different name, she might have accepted it better. Damn it. With these thoughts swirling in her head, Ruri continued reading. Black Cat. She wants to use the magic of this house to reclaim her original body. If that happens, the magic of the house will disappear, right? If I stay here, I might get consumed too. Hey, we may not have physical forms, but that doesn't mean we're immortal. As the dialogue ended, the screen changed. A faint, sinister black aura surrounded the black cat. Crimson droplets appeared on its upper body, and even though the image was blurry, an overwhelming sense of malice radiated from the screen. Then, to her shock, the subtitle that reappeared showed the black cat's title had changed. Demon, alright, that's it. Good luck, Ellen, the witch who keeps her promises. As the black aura faded, the black cat slowly collapsed. This ending. It's even more complete than the true ending. Ruri's eyes lit up with excitement. She had planned to use the true ending as content, but this no save, one life clear ending was undeniably superior. All the mysteries were laid bare without any deception. In the true ending, there was no way to confirm the black cat was actually a demon. But in this ending, the game spelled it out directly. For Ruri, this was an unexpected treasure. As she pushed the door open and explored the house, she noticed the details had changed compared to the true ending. The information was even more complete. In front of a blood-stained bedsheet, I used to lie on this bed. Next to a broken chair with shattered legs, seemingly a silent testament to the past. The chair is overturned. Viola used to sit here and chat with me. A bookshelf. There are several books on magic. It feels quite amusing to experience the world as a powerless human. Approaching the witch's diary, Ruri held her breath. Would the story change this time? With this thought in mind, she clicked to read. The witch's diary, I knew she would agree. The very first line was already drastically different from before. Ruri felt both excitement and dread. Dread that this new plot would plunge her further into despair. But her curiosity to see what kind of storytelling the creator had woven won out. With a click of her mouse. Because she's so kind, because she's so pure, when we swap bodies, Viola will be shocked, won't she? My body is falling apart, and I'm in constant pain. I've gotten used to it, but she won't be able to endure it. She'll probably cry out in agony, so I'll give her some medicine. A burning, throat-scorching medicine. With this, she'll be quiet. I don't want to hear my own screams. If I tell her it's for the pain, she'll drink it without question. Then, I can finally leave this house. I can step into the garden and feel the breeze on my body. It must feel wonderful. Oh, right, before she arrives, I need to gouge out my eyes and break my legs. That way, Viola will be left to die in despair. Ah, Viola, my dear friend. So kind, so lovely. So naive, my dear friend. As the final word faded, the screen trembled as if an earthquake had struck. Dragging her bloodied body, Ellen, the witch possessing Viola's soul, emerged on screen. Ruri's heart trembled with rage. This wretch. This scum. No. This thing is no longer human. This was a true witch. Not the kind of cutesy, marketable witch for fan service, but a true, detestable, loathsome villain who evoked pure hatred. Her actions had completely abandoned the morality of humanity. Ruri's fury burned uncontrollably. In the previous 2 endings, even after learning about the body swap, she subconsciously thought that Ellen had always been like that, born into suffering, tortured endlessly. In a twisted way, she even felt satisfaction at Ellen's suffering. But this diary revealed the truth. Ellen wasn't born that way. She became this monster by her own hands. The moment the body swap magic was complete, Viola was subjected to unimaginable suffering. Such a kind and pure girl, treated so cruelly. Damn it. This is unforgivable. Why does such a monster even exist? Ruri slammed her desk in rage, her hand stinging from the impact, but she didn't care. The physical pain was nothing compared to the helpless agony welling up inside her. After all, the moment Viola woke up in the garden, the story's fate was sealed. The body swap magic had already succeeded. From the very start, this was a hopeless scenario. The player couldn't save the real Viola. All they could do was aid the witch Helen's escape. Huff. Huff. Ruri gritted her teeth, breathing heavily. And then? No depth to the story, huh? Cliché, huh? Alright then. I'll make you all feel true despair. With eyes burning with darkness, Ruri launched her video editing software. In this moment, she had become a machine devoid of emotion, ready to deliver unparalleled anguish to those foolish viewers still reveling in the joy of Stein's Gate. Chapter 199, Long Time No See. What has everyone been up to lately? Any favorite works? If not, why not try out a game called The Witch's House, a great puzzle game? In my opinion, this game is definitely among the best in the mystery and horror genre. Especially the plot, it's incredibly interesting, even surpassing all other similar works. Trust me, in this game, you'll experience emotions that no other game can offer. I'll be making a walkthrough video for it tonight, so stay tuned. That's all. While Chiba's Fallen Saint Black Cat account didn't have the same level of followers as Akifumi's SNS, there was a notable overlap between their fanbases. This had the added effect of promoting the game. After the post, a lot of comments started appearing quickly. The Witch's House? I think I heard about this game today. Since it's recommended by Black Cat Sama, I'll give it a try. A mystery, horror game? That's my favorite genre. With Black Cat Sama's recommendation, I feel safe trying it out. Even though there was some overlap between the fans, more than half of them were shared. After all, Akifumi worked in so many different fields, which naturally expanded their fan base. I thought the long review of Your Lie in April was just a coincidence, but now I see it. Black Cat Sama is also a fan of Sensei. I just saw The Witch's House recommended by Sensei yesterday, and now Black Cat Sama is recommending it too. Guess I have to buy it. Isn't this the first time Sensei has made a game? Is it really as good as Black Cat Sama says? The Witch's House is definitely a solid game, but is Black Cat Sama serious about the plot being outstanding? I've cleared it multiple times, and I still don't see anything in the story that's worth praising. This is such an ordinary story, it really doesn't meet the standards I expect from the original creator. Even if it's Sensei's work, it should be viewed critically, right? Could it be that Black Cat Sama's been paid for this? The comments continued to pour in, with many expressing doubt or confusion. But then, a new post appeared. Seeing a lot of players commenting that The Witch's House doesn't have any standout story moments, and they think I'm just blindly praising it, some even suggesting I've been paid. To the last point, I'd like to ask, if Warrior of Love and Hope Sensei sees this, could you share your line ID with me? Ahem. Back to the main topic. For those saying the story has no highlights, I can only say, is it a bit too soon to judge without reaching the true ending? If you're stuck, here's a hint. During the final chase, find Ellen's knife, and you'll see a completely different story. Just to avoid any argument, here's the badge I earned. Screenshot.jpg. Click to view. The screenshot showed Chiba's Fallen Saint Black Cat's playtime in the Witch's House and the achievements unlocked, with the most eye-catching being the unique gold achievement. After the new post, responses began flooding in quickly. Black Cat Sama, you've already reached the true ending so fast. I thought the other endings were a scam, but it turns out I was just too dumb to figure it out. Wait, it's not a change in the middle of the game, but rather an item affecting the final outcome? Isn't that a bit too childish? What's so different about the true ending? Well, if it's so easy to get the true ending, I guess I'll go back and check it out. About 2 hours after this post went up, the comments started to shift dramatically. My eyes. My eyes. Why did I have to go and watch the so-called true ending? It's fake. It's definitely fake. I refuse to accept that all my efforts led to this outcome. In my rage, I punched my monitor. Ugh, my diffubedzidcast W321C. I was so upset, but then now I can't help but laugh. Did I really pay this much for a game? Anyway, I refuse to accept this ending. If anything, the earlier endings are the real ones. By the way, is it possible that the only difference between the fake and true endings is that we didn't see the truth, not the other way around? Shut up. I was wrong, I was so wrong. Doubting Sensei's script. Once again, I've been destroyed by the master's genius, and now I feel like I've lost all hope. This pain is deeper than any other I've ever felt. I haven't even played The Witch's House yet, and I'm so confused. Isn't it just an extra item? Why has everyone's opinion changed so fast? At first, we all didn't understand the plot, So we had shallow interpretations. It turns out, it wasn't the creator's story that was the issue, it was us. We were too stupid. Not play The Witch's House yet? Bastard. Stop reading these posts and go play it right now. Exactly. Go play it. This game is amazing. I'm off to recommend it to my friends. I won't allow anyone around me to not have played this game. Is it possible I've already recommended it to everyone? This game is so excellent, everyone has to play it. At first, players were expressing their pain, but as the tide shifted, the mood quickly changed. Now, those who had discovered the truth, while heartbroken, were also taking action. If the creator's previous works had brought sadness followed by a shift to hope and understanding, The Witch's House only left behind total despair. From every angle, all that could be felt was pain. After experiencing that pain, there was no way to recover. So, let's spread it. I can't be the only one feeling this pain. Everyone should experience the love and beauty that The Witch's House brings. Chapter 200, the next day, Sunday. Early in the morning, Akifumi logged into his Steam creator's account, following his usual habit from the previous day. The sales numbers that appeared on the screen made his eyes widen in disbelief. No way? The last time he checked before going to bed, the sales were just over 180,000. Now it's 274,655. A nearly 100,000 unit increase in sales overnight. It's not even the first day of release. Even with a feature on the recommended page, this is way too ridiculous. What the hell happened? What exactly is going on here? The sales boost from the anime adaptation of Steins Gate only lasted for a short while after the airing. By 11 p.m., the sales had already stabilized. Yet, in less than 10 hours. That means nearly 10,000 units per hour? Even on a Friday release day, such numbers were unheard of. So, what exactly happened during these 10 hours? With this thought, he instinctively opened the game's review section. An amazing game. I was in tears after finishing the ending. A classmate recommended this to me. After playing, I realized how incredible it is. I'll definitely thank him properly when I see him on Monday. The gameplay and storyline are irreplaceable masterpieces. From this game, I felt the indescribable essence of love and hope. This is the best horror and puzzle-solving game I've ever played. Even without considering the genre, this is an absolute masterpiece. The must-play game of the year. Huh? At a glance, the review section was filled with nothing but praise. The overwhelming positivity stood out like a beacon. Even players who had previously left one-star reviews had edited their comments and ratings. The harmony and praise were so surreal that Akifumi almost thought he was witnessing a review bombing. But that was impossible. On Steam, players can only leave reviews after playing for more than 2 hours. That means every review was genuine. If he had actually paid for fake reviews, he wouldn't even break even. Then what exactly is going on here? Before going to bed, the reviews were still mixed. How did the comments section completely flip overnight? Instinctively, he refreshed the page. Akifumi's eyes narrowed. Damn it. You bitch. How the hell did you feel love and hope from such a despair-filled story? Isn't it nothing but despair? Just thinking about the plot makes my brain tremble. What kind of twisted story is this? Is the developer even human? The sheer despair and resentment in the comment could be felt through the screen. But what caught Akifumi's attention was the reply below it. Yo.who. Nice. Another newbie trapped. Keep up the good work, guys. Feeling hopeless, huh? Feeling miserable, huh? Just imagine how much better you'd feel if someone shared that pain with you. I'm feeling absolutely euphoric right now. See all those positive reviews? That's our will. You got that? When Akifumi refreshed the page again, the original comment had mysteriously disappeared, replaced by a new one. This is the best game I've played this year. Tsk. Akifumi clicked his tongue and then smirked. These guys are really something else. He couldn't deny it. Their strategy was working perfectly. After all, the glaring sales figures on the creator's dashboard don't lie. To the players who were eagerly pulling others into the pit, Akifumi only had 3 words to say. Keep it up. While the players were enjoying the twisted satisfaction of dragging others into despair, Akifumi was not only having fun but also raking in the profits. Humming a cheerful tune, Akifumi walked out of his room. Mugio-kun seems to be in a great mood today. Miharu said curiously. The game is selling like crazy. Miharu tilted her head. But when your manga sold well, you weren't this happy. It's different this time. Akifumi didn't bother explaining further. At least with his manga, he showed some restraint. But with The Witch's House, he went all out. He wouldn't be surprised if some players rage quit and unfollowed him. Now that the players were experiencing both pain and the satisfaction of sharing that pain, there was no need to worry about losing fans. Why wouldn't he be happy? Seeing his smug grin, Mahiru simply smiled and changed the topic. Come have breakfast after you wash up. The morning passed in a flash. Looking at the sales that had already surpassed 300,000, Akifumi let out a sigh despite his joy. Even with this many players, no one has unlocked all the endings yet? Judging from the players' reactions, the true ending had already been discovered. Someone even managed to complete the no-save, one life clear. But there was still one final achievement left, the hidden, special ending. Staring at the achievement on the dashboard, Akifumi sighed at the Ellen's diary displayed before him. How am I supposed to give you guys this final gift? At that moment, the dimmed achievement icon suddenly lit up. Huh? All endings unlocked? Akifumi blinked in surprise before grinning. Without hesitation, he logged into his account and posted an update. Congratulations on unlocking all endings of the Witch's House. As promised, here's your reward. Link, XXXX, click to access. A full volume of light novel content couldn't fit in a simple post. Akifumi had even built a dedicated platform just to upload Ellen's diary. Thinking about it. Going through all this trouble just to deliver a reward. I really am such a good person. Good thing the fans couldn't hear him. Otherwise, they'd be gritting their teeth and cursing through clenched jaws. Fuck you, and thank you so much. Chapter 201. You heartless bastard. Damn it. How do you have the audacity to post this? Hacker. Where's a hacker? I'll pay 100,000 yen to track down this scumbag's address. You damn traitor. Do you know how I spent last night? I was basking in the sweetness of the latest episode of Steins Gate, only to be plunged into despair after playing your cursed game. I still haven't recovered from the emotional damage. 3 endings. 3 endings and not a single happy one. The more I play, the more depressed I get. I can't even eat because of this damn game. Akifumi-sensei, tell me honestly, are you going through some life crisis to create such a soul-crushing game? Don't click that link. We all know this so-called gift will only deepen our despair. That's right. I'm definitely not clicking it. Come on, who would be dumb enough to fall for such an obvious trap? Despite the cries of resistance flooding the comments, curiosity is a powerful force. One glance. Just one more look. And suddenly, their hand moves on its own. Damn it. It's not like I want to see what's in that link. My hand just won't listen to me. Watching the view count on the site skyrocket to 5 digits within moments, Akifumi couldn't help but grin. Please. Enjoy it to your heart's content, my dear fans. Just then, his phone rang. Upon answering, a familiar, resentful voice echoed from the other end. Akifumi-sensei. Huh? Machida-san, the editor? Even if it's just a single volume, you should have let me handle the publication. Machida-Sanoko's heart was bleeding. Just from a quick glance at the content, she knew this light novel would be a massive hit. Not to mention the popularity boost from the Witch's House game. Sure, the game was filled with emotional trauma, but that's exactly what drew people in. And why does she know this? As an editor, it's her job to keep track of her author's activities. Plus, she was one of the first players to achieve the true ending with a no-death run. At the cost of skipping 2 meals and losing a few pounds in the process. Faced with her sorrowful tone, Akifumi chuckled. It's just a little gift for the fans. Do you really think your fans will appreciate this gift? Well, as long as they're happy, that's all that matters. Akifumi laughed. Besides, it's already released. What's done is done. No. It still matters. Machida insisted. Next time, please let me handle it. Next time, huh? Akifumi thought for a moment and nodded. Sure. It was just an empty promise anyway. Who knows when he'd write another light novel as a gift again. By the way, Akifumi-sensei. There's some good news related to your work. Good news? Well, it's not finalized yet, and due to confidentiality agreements, I can't reveal it right now. So, this is her revenge for not letting her handle the novel, huh? But for Machida Sanoko to call it good news. It must be something big. Is it an anime adaptation? Akifumi asked casually. Sensei, for you, anime adaptations are just a matter of time. That doesn't count as good news. Machida chuckled. Anyway, just wait and look forward to it. After hanging up, Akifumi clicked his tongue. TCH, women and their grudges. Laugh all you want now. Once you finish reading Ellen's diary, let's see if you're still smiling. Akifumi hummed a tune and returned to his work, ignoring the chaos brewing online. Meanwhile, Machida Sanoko smugly adjusted her anti-blue light glasses, her eyes slightly red from exhaustion. Curious, aren't you? Good. That's exactly what I want. She wasn't about to tell Akifumi that his light novel was about to hit international markets. With a satisfied smirk, she turned back to her screen. The moment she read the opening lines of Ellen's diary, her heart tightened. I am burdened with an illness. No one wants to play with me. A scene of a black cat hunting its prey played out before her eyes, as the protagonist watched in quiet envy. Why envy? People walking through the alleyways pretend not to see me. When they do notice me, they look away, disturbed by my pale and sickly face. Even the more honest ones quickly frown and leave, as if they've seen something ominous. With just a few simple lines, the story painted the image of a girl abandoned by the world, living in the slums. It was only natural that no one would lend her a hand in such a place. As the story unfolded, the protagonist's bond with her mother was subtly revealed. I'm sorry. I can't let you play outside. With those words, the gentle atmosphere of the story took a sharp turn. The protagonist's anxiety surged as her memories drifted back to her childhood. She vividly recalled the rough, calloused hands of her mother, a sight that filled her with inexplicable fear. Why are her hands so rough? She already knew the answer. Her mother's hands were worn not only from work but from taking care of her. If she continued to be a burden, one day, her mother would abandon her. Because only those with the luxury to do so can afford to be kind. Once that luxury is gone, kindness becomes an illusion. That day would come eventually. And the girl knew it. At that moment, Machida's heart ached for the protagonist. She tightened her grip on her glasses and braced herself for the emotional roller coaster that awaited her. Chapter 202, Damn it. No matter how you look at it, this is just wrong. Staring at the words before her, Machida Sanoko clenched her fists tightly. There was no title, and so far, no mention of the protagonist's name. But the descriptions of their appearance, the details woven into every sentence, it wasn't hard to figure out who the diary was about. Ellen. The witch. The ruthless woman who tormented Viola, fueling their rage and hatred. The evil being they despised. This diary told her story. The story of Ellen before she became a witch. As an outsider, an adult with a clear sense of right and wrong, Machida could say without hesitation there was something fundamentally flawed in Ellen's way of thinking. Terribly flawed. Yet, when she tried to see things from Ellen's perspective, she found it impossible to say that Ellen was entirely wrong. Ellen had grown up in the slums, where even survival was a struggle. No one had the luxury to reach out and help others. So, when her existence started making life harder for her mother, it was only natural that she would abandon her, wasn't it? But even if her skin was scarred, her joints riddled with illness, and every step brought her pain, she was still a mother. And when the mother sees her child suffering, doesn't she feel heartache? Doesn't she blame herself? She must have hated the fact that such a young girl had to endure so much pain. She must have resented herself for being powerless, unable to afford a doctor, unable to ease her daughter's suffering in any way other than through small, insignificant gestures. But as a reader, Machida understood this. The mother in the diary, however, had no way of knowing what terrifying thoughts were forming in her daughter's mind. So when the girl suddenly stopped going outside, the mother simply assumed her daughter's condition had worsened, that she was in too much pain to play like before. And as a result, she only showered her daughter with even more love and attention. But for the 7-year-old girl, this wasn't warmth. It was a prison of her own making. My mother. My mother love. I love my mother deeply, just as she loves me. To me, being abandoned by her is no different from death. Because she is the only one who loves me. If my mother doesn't smile, I can't smile either. If my mother doesn't love me, I can't breathe. Like a drowning person desperately clinging to anything within reach, I held on to my mother with everything I had. Reading this passage, Machida's thoughts drifted back to the witch from the game. There had been a particular scene where the words read, "My parents didn't love me. So I killed them." Comparing that moment to this diary, the connection was painfully clear. The overwhelming desire for love, the desperate need for acceptance. It had all led to the tragedy that would unfold. But when did things take a turn for the worse? The answer soon surfaced in Machida Sanoko's mind. The girl's father had his wages cut again. And the frustration he never dared to express outside the home. He took it out on the two people closest to him. Ellen. And Ellen's mother. His harsh words, his violent outbursts, his reckless destruction of household objects, all of it kept the two on edge. Then came the night when he roughly grabbed his wife's hand, tearing her away from Ellen. Their fingers, once intertwined, were forcibly separated. He dragged her into the only private room in the house and slammed the door shut. The sound of the lock clicking into place echoed through the air, leaving Ellen alone outside. From behind the wall, there were loud bangs. The sounds gradually softened. And then only whispers. A familiar scene. Her parents always had their private conversations where she couldn't see. Bang. Machida slammed her palm against the table, her voice trembling with rage. That bastard. As if working tirelessly just to keep her daughter alive wasn't hard enough, as if enduring all this suffering wasn't enough, she still had to deal with that man's violence. From the context, it was obvious what had happened in that room. It was clear he had raised his hand against the very woman who bore everything for her child. But what pained Machida the most was that while this mother suffered for her daughter, that very daughter couldn't understand her pain. Instead, the girl believed her mother was keeping secrets from her, that she was an outsider in her own family, excluded and left in the dark. Was it Ellen's fault for misunderstanding? No. And that was what made it so agonizing. Machida was furious. She was heartbroken, but she was powerless to change anything. She could only watch as the inevitable tragedy took shape before her eyes. Misunderstanding after misunderstanding piled up, and Ellen's sadness and pain deepened. She began to feel like a lifeless doll, while her mother remained real, warm, and alive. And from this contrast, hatred was born. It all seemed so natural, so inevitable, as described in the diary's words. Then came another turning point. The death of the black cat in the alley. And with that, the story began moving inexorably toward tragedy. Her mother never came home again. Machida froze. What? The woman who was supposed to love and protect Ellen was really gone? So Ellen's fears weren't baseless. She hadn't been paranoid. The one who had been naive was her. She had never stood in Ellen's shoes. She had never truly grasped the weight of her fear. Biting her lip, Machida forced herself to keep reading. A man she didn't recognize started visiting the house. Her father would take something from him in exchange for money, and soon, a strange, sweet scent began lingering in the air. This lined up perfectly with a certain scene from the game. The one inside the prison cell. That something was unmistakable. Left alone with no one to care for her, the girl bandaged her wounds by herself, clinging to the hope that her mother would return and apologize one day. But on a certain night, she finally received an answer. "I'm sorry. You have to get along with your father." That was all. And with those words the last thread holding the girl together snapped. The scene from the game unfolded in even greater detail before Machida's eyes. The suffocating sorrow. The deep, inescapable despair. She felt an unbearable weight in her chest. But for whom did she grieve? For Ellen, the child who so desperately longed for love? For her mother, the woman who had suffered so much misfortune? Or for her father, the man who had given up on himself? Machida didn't know. But there was one thing she was sure of: by the time the story reached this point, she could no longer see Ellen as just a villain. Chapter 203, Machida Sanoko let out a complicated sigh as she read through the tragic story laid out in words. The Ellen depicted in the game's background was undeniably loathsome, someone to be hated and despised. Her actions had long since crossed the boundary of humanity. But after reading this diary, Machida suddenly had a realization: was it truly Ellen's fault that she had become the monster in the game? The answer was clear: no, it wasn't. Born into misfortune, she had to shackle her true nature, suppressing herself in order to win her mother's love. She tried to be obedient, mature, everything a good child should be. Yet, even then, a small mistake was enough for her to lose her mother's affection entirely. She was abandoned, discarded without a second thought. And the man she called her father? Even when Ellen herself admitted to killing her own mother, he barely spared her a glance. Not even for a second. The one thing she longed for most, her mother's love, was shattered, turning to dust before her very eyes. All of this, the pain, the neglect, the rejection, had laid the foundation for the tragedy to come. Machida didn't know how to feel. Why did they have to create such a complex character? No, that wasn't quite right. Why couldn't the story just end when the game ended? Why did they have to flesh out her background like this? She felt overwhelmed, torn between conflicting emotions. She sympathized with Ellen's suffering, yet she couldn't forget the atrocities she had committed. Two opposing emotions twisted together, creating something even more unbearable. And as a professional editor with years of experience, felt this way, she could only imagine how other readers were reacting. Taking a deep breath, she continued reading. By all accounts, the story should have ended there. But the sudden appearance of a demon changed everything. With the enticing promise of a home, Ellen agreed without hesitation, and the story moved into its next chapter. In this new home, under the influence of magic, Ellen became normal. She had a beautiful face, a strong and healthy body. The price? She could never leave the house. What would happen if she did? The demon never said, and Ellen never asked. At first, the house provided everything she could want. It was comfortable, warm, filled with beautiful things. But one thing was missing: people. The house was maintained by creatures born from magic, but Ellen, as a human, felt a deep loneliness. After all, humans are social beings. Cut off from the world for too long, isolation had a way of driving people mad. I want a friend. One day, Ellen went to the demon and made her wish known. That's easy. The demon said. Just bring them here. Ellen couldn't leave the house, but she could lure others in. As a witch, her magic extended throughout the entire forest. The house was her brain, the surrounding woods her limbs. If she tried hard enough, she could invite people inside. So she did. And soon, the house welcomed its first guest, a young boy. He eagerly accepted Ellen's invitation to tea, stepping inside without hesitation. As they spent time together, Ellen, nervous but hopeful, finally asked, "Will you be my friend?" The boy started visiting regularly, playing with her, laughing with her. He called her name. He waved at her, and she waved back. For the first time, Ellen felt happiness. Ever since she had made a friend, the black cat hadn't appeared again. Time passed. One day, the boy said something unexpected. "Hey, Ellen. You should come outside sometimes." His invitation made her hesitate. She refused. The black cat's warning echoed in her mind. She must never leave the house. But why? She didn't know. So, instinctively, she used an excuse. I'm sick." "Sick? But you look fine." The boy replied. "It's just for a little bit. It should be okay, right?" It was such a tempting offer. The black cat's words faded from her memory. Just for a little bit. It should be okay, right? That thought took hold. So, Ellen took a step outside. And then thud. A searing pain slammed into her skull, as if she had been struck with a hammer. She collapsed onto the dirt. Her right eye burned. She clutched it instinctively, feeling a warm liquid seep through her fingers. Blood. The boy realized it before she did. He stumbled back in horror. Desperate to reassure him, she forced a smile only for the skin on her face to peel away, falling in jagged flakes. There was no doubt. Faced with such a horrific sight, the boy screamed and ran. His expression, the sheer terror in his eyes, was like looking at someone staring at a monster. The look stabbed through Ellen like a knife. There were no words to describe the pain in her heart. The truth was clear. Even a friend would abandon her in the face of such horror. As the boy disappeared, the black cat reappeared. Doing nothing won't make you better. Magic could maintain her body as long as she stayed inside. She wouldn't heal, but she wouldn't die either. Even as her illness worsened, even if her legs rotted away, even if her eyes lost all sight, even if her face became so ruined that no one could recognize her, she would still live. Forever. Because now, Ellen was a witch. Despair swallowed her whole. Then, that despair twisted into hatred. Hatred for the demon who had tricked her. But demons, by nature, could see through the hearts of humans. And before she even realized it, a knife had found its way into her clenched fist. Ellen screamed, slashing at the black cat with all her might. She didn't care where the blade landed, she just wanted to silence its taunting voice. Yet, even when the knife plunged into its heart, the demon did not die. It spoke with the same calm tone, its cruel words stripping away the last of Ellen's defenses. "No one ever loved you. Not a single person. Your father never even looked at you. Your mother was planning to abandon you. You wanted so desperately to be loved. To love someone in return. It's all because of this illness. That's why no one loved you. How strange. You deserve love, don't you? That boy, too, he left you the moment you got sick. So cruel, isn't it? Everything is because of your illness. But you already know what you truly want, don't you?" Yes. Ellen knew the answer. A healthy body. And so, before the broken girl, the demon offered her one thing: hope. But hope always comes with a price. And the demon was ready to name its terms. Chapter 204, Machida Sanoko closed the webpage in front of her with a complicated expression. Lying back on her chair and staring at the ceiling, her mind drifted into emptiness. She had thought that the lingering impact of the game The Witch's House was already intense enough. But she hadn't expected that the prequel story would hit even harder. Without a doubt, Ellen fell into the devil's trap the moment she spoke to him. From that point on, her fate was sealed. The devil knew exactly what she longed for and how to make her obediently do his bidding. As everything unfolded as planned, with her so-called friend abandoning her without hesitation and the devil striking at the depths of her soul, Ellen lost herself. Step by step, she fell into the devil's sweet trap and became the twisted character in the story. But was the devil really at fault? No. The devil was simply acting for his own purposes. Moreover, it was the devil who gave Ellen, who desperately sought someone love, a glimmer of hope. Even though that hope led her hands to be stained with blood, took her down to an absolutely wrong path, and caused her to lose herself over hundreds of years. In the end, through such a twisted method, she fulfilled her wish to be loved by taking someone else's place. And for Ellen, that was enough. So, who was truly at fault? This world, huh? As that thought crossed her mind, Machida let out a complicated sigh. What a messed up conclusion. Rubbing her aching temples, the emotions from the story surged once more from the depths of her heart. Damn it. Why did I have to read this story? When she first finished playing The Witch's House, the only character she hated was Ellen. But after reading The Witch's Diary, she suddenly realized there was no one she could truly hate. All the misfortune stemmed from this twisted world. But this twisted world is completely fictional. Frustration filled her chest, with no target to vent on, leaving her feeling even more miserable. No wonder he is called the master of depression. Feeling the magical level stomachache that came not from physical pain but from emotional turmoil, Machida bitterly shook her head. I feel like I just saved money on today's meals. Since Machida read the story at a normal pace, by the time she finished, most readers had already done the same. And right at that moment, the online community exploded. Why does this hurt so much? Why is this so heartbreaking? I feel like my soul is shattering. At first, I only hated Ellen, but after reading this, I can't bring myself to hate her anymore. Because Ellen is pitiful too. You can't judge others without understanding their suffering. She was abandoned by her mother, and her father never cared about her. If I went through that, I wouldn't fare any better. It's just too tragic. The devil's appearance was like a rope thrown to a drowning Ellen. If she didn't grab it, she'd be swallowed by the abyss. But Ellen's crimes are unforgivable. Over hundreds of years, she lured countless people into the house and killed them. And what she did to Viola. Wake up. No one is trying to justify Ellen's actions. It's just that, after understanding her past, we realize the true source of hatred isn't her, but something else. That's why this hurts so much. I feel so conflicted and miserable. I regret reading this. Regret +1. What kind of mental state that someone need to be in order to write this? If players of The Witch's House felt pain, then after reading The Witch's Diary, that pain was replaced by endless emotional turmoil. Don't think that feeling conflicted is better than feeling pain. Because while feeling conflicted, the original pain from the game didn't lessen at all. In fact, it only intensified over time. Emotionally, they understood that Ellen's choices were inevitable. But logically, they couldn't forgive her actions. As this emotional turmoil twisted and tangled in their hearts, the game sales of The Witch's House skyrocketed. Monday morning. Akifumi Mugio had just taken his seat when Kato called out to him. The usually emotionless girl wore a rare expression of concern. Akifumi, are you okay? Huh? What do you mean? What's wrong with me? Didn't you release that game The Witch's House on Friday? Oh? Did you play it too, Kato? Kato shook her head. For various reasons, I didn't get to play it. What a shame. Akifumi couldn't help but wonder what kind of expression Kato would make after playing it. Just imagining it filled him with anticipation. Then why are you asking me this? Because everyone online is worried about your mental health. Before Akifumi could respond, Kato added, but seeing how you're talking now, I guess you're fine. That's a relief. What the heck? Why is everyone worried about my mental health? Confused, Akifumi took out his phone. The top trending post immediately made his expression twitch. Chapter 205, You're the one who's heartbroken. You're the one with mental issues. You're the one who's gone through some unspeakably tragic event. Akifumi grumbled as he closed the post with frustration. Taking a deep breath, he forced a smile and turned to Kato. Kato, give me a moment. With that, he reopened the post, copied the link, and sent it to Mihari via line. Stepping out into the empty corridor, he dialed Mihari's number. The call was answered with a surprised tone from the other end. Akifumi-sensei? Calling me this early? Is something wrong? I just sent you a post online. I need you to get a lawyer and sue them. Huh? Though bewildered, Mihari didn't hesitate to agree. Okay. By the way, do you have time this afternoon? What's the matter? There's something important I need to discuss with you in person. Alright, I'll come by after school. Thank you. Hanging up, Akifumi glanced at the post title once more, his expression darkening. Do these people really think the internet is a lawless place? Let's see who's laughing now. The school day passed swiftly. On the subway platform, take care on your way home. Mashiro nodded. Miharu smiled, you too, Mugio-kun. Akifumi smiled back and parted ways with the girls. He then headed to Shueisha's office. In the familiar meeting room, Mihari was already waiting. As he sat down, Akifumi glanced around and commented, the office seems quite empty today. It's Monday. There are several meetings and preparations for the next issue. Naturally, you won't see many people around. Considering the occasional late night and weekend overtime, the life of an editor was indeed tough. So, what's the reason for calling me here today? Mihari handed him a prepared document with a smile. You'll understand once you read this. Curious, Akifumi opened the file. A moment later, he exclaimed, "This is quite the surprise." Mihari chuckled awkwardly. "It's not really surprising. This is a benefit you rightfully deserve, Akifumi-sensei. If not for an unexpected issue with the previous partner, this contract would have been signed last year." Well, better late than never. Without hesitation, Akifumi signed his name on the document. It was a contract authorizing the overseas publication of his works. Due to additional taxes and expenses, the royalty percentage was reduced to 8%, but the potential revenue from the international market was massive. While manga, light novels, and anime were pillars of the Japanese economy, the domestic audience was limited. Overseas, with a larger population and growing interest in otaku culture, even an 8% royalty could surpass the total revenue from multiple works in Japan. Akifumi-sensei, your works will be officially released overseas this Thursday. However, due to translation progress, only the first 6 volumes of Your Lie in April and none of Akamgakil will be available for now. Puella Meiji Madoka Magica and Anohana, The Flower We Saw That Day have been ready since last year but were delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. Akifumi nodded in understanding. I'll keep you updated with the latest feedback from overseas readers. I appreciate your effort, Mihari-san. After some casual conversation, Akifumi bid farewell and left the office. In a high school classroom on a foreign country, an ordinary student named Alex overheard an exciting conversation between classmates. "This is awesome. Sensei's works are finally being released here." "Sensei? What works?" "Warrior of Love and Hope. A rising mangaka who debuted last year. Why bother with Rookie?" "Rookie? All of their works have sold over 1 million copies each." "1 million? Big deal. In Japan, even top-tier manga like One Piece only sells around 1 million copies per volume annually. That's a huge achievement. Wait. Isn't One Piece selling millions per volume here?" "Exactly. The market dynamics are completely different. This new mangaka's sales are already on par with veteran artists. I'm hyped. Have you read their works?" "Of course. I saw them at my brother's place. The art is incredible, but I couldn't understand the text. So, when will it be available in stores?" "This Thursday. I just hope my wallet survives. Come on, a manga volume is only about 30 yuan. But there are 15 volumes across 3 completed series." "Wait, you say this mangaka debuted just a year ago?" "Yeah, but they work insanely fast." "Well, I'll just buy 1 volume to see if I like it." Alex, who had been quietly listening, couldn't help but feel intrigued. A rookie author? Million copy sales? 15 volumes in a year? As a closet fan of Akifumi, Alex fully understood the significance of these numbers. If this data is legit, this person is a rising star in the manga world. Warrior of Love and Hope. Thursday, huh? Alex made a mental note to check out the series the moment it hit the shelves. Chapter 206, time flew by, and soon it was Thursday. As the lunch bell rang, Alex left school, taking advantage of the brief window when students were allowed to go out. He headed straight to the nearest bookstore. At the entrance, 3 large promotional posters and their accompanying taglines caught his eye: "Miracles aren't free. If you wish for hope, you must also be prepared to spread equal despair. Puella Meiji Madoka Magica. I have known the meaning of flowers, but never their names. When I see them bloom again, my tears fall like rain. Anohana, the flower we saw that day. The moment I met him, my life changed. Everything I saw, felt, and experienced became colorful. The whole world began to shine." Your Lie in April. Staring at the beautifully illustrated covers and the deeply meaningful taglines, Alex found himself in a dilemma. After much internal debate, he finally reached for Puella Meiji Madoka Magica. Even if I don't end up liking it, I can always give it to my sister as a birthday gift. Genius move. 1 purchase, 2 uses. Grabbing a takeaway on the way back, Alex returned to his dormitory. His roommates were either still at the cafeteria or busy elsewhere, leaving the room empty. After quickly finishing his meal, he tore off the plastic wrap and climbed onto his upper bunk, book in hand. Over 200 pages? No wonder it was so expensive. 1 volume had cost him $10, equivalent to his entire day's meal budget. Still, since it doubled as a gift for his sister later, the sting of the expense faded quickly. Flipping through the pages, he admired the exquisite artwork but couldn't help but feel puzzled. How did a Magical Girl series manage to sell over 1 million copies in Japan? If it had appealing characters and fan service, he could understand it selling well in Japan, given the sheer amount of the market around them. Time passed unknowingly, and soon, the afternoon class bell rang. "Alex, class is starting. Get up already." His roommate's voice called out, and Alex lazily responded, Yeah, I know. You go first, I'll be right there. Don't be late." Once his roommate left, Alex quickly flipped through the last few pages. staring at the cover, where a cheerful blonde girl smiled brightly. His expression turned complicated. She just died like that? What about the other girls? What fate awaits them? With a lingering glance at the cover, he knew he couldn't afford to dawdle any longer. He left the dorm, making a firm decision in his heart. After class, I'm buying the next volume no matter what. That means an extra $10 spent today. Hiss. Alex sucked in a sharp breath. That was hard-earned money he had been saving up. But the thought of knowing the story's continuation made his heart itch with anticipation. In the battle between financial pain and the urge to finish the book, the latter won. The afternoon classes felt like an eternity. As soon as the dismissal bell rang, Alex bolted out of the school. Only to be met with a cruel reality. Sold out? Alex stared in shock. The bookstore owner shrugged helplessly. I didn't expect it to be this popular either. They were all gone before the first afternoon class even started. But don't worry, I'll restock soon. Check back next week. No way. He had finally worked up the resolve, spent the whole afternoon looking forward to it, and now he had to wait an entire week for the ending? This was even worse than dropping out of the top 10 in his grade. But no matter how frustrated he felt, he had no choice but to accept it. Dejected, he left the bookstore. As time passed, something unexpected happened. Puella Magi Madoka Magica, Anohana, and Your Lie in April were sold out in bookstores nationwide. A trending topic exploded on social media: top-selling light novel and mangas completely out of stock. Below the post, countless frustrated readers shared their grievances. I just finished volume 1 of Madoka Magica and went to buy the second one only to be told it's out of stock. My heart is shattered. That's exactly how I felt when I couldn't find the next volume of Anohana. You guys are lucky. At least your series will be restocked next week. I just finished volume 6 of Your Lie in April, and who knows when the remaining 5 will even be released. These bookstores are ridiculous. Why stock so little of such good titles? Don't they want to make money? Glad I bought the whole set. My weekend is booked. As someone who already read the raw versions, let me warn you, if you've only finished volume 1, do yourself a favor, don't read the next volume. Trust me. Nonsense. The later volumes are where the real masterpiece begins. If you don't read the next volume, you're missing out on the essence of all 3 series. If you love this mangaka's work, check out The Witch's House on Steam. It's his latest project. Wait. Are you serious? Damn, even Satan would bow to you for this recommendation. Isn't Steam a gaming platform? What does it have to do with this manga author? Some of you might not know this, but the creator, Warrior of Love and Hope, originally debuted as a manga artist. However, his works span multiple fields, from light novels to anime screenwriting and even indie game development. The Witch's House was his first ever game, and it's fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. I only played for 5 hours. I played for 7. You guys are monsters. At the same time, the online fan communities for these 3 series exploded. Originally small, each fan forum quickly surged past 100,000 members, with no signs of stopping. Short video platforms like TikTok and YouTube were flooded with clips analyzing and celebrating the stories. With such widespread attention, the sales numbers skyrocketed. Even The Witch's House, which had stagnated in popularity, saw a massive resurgence in sales thanks to organic fan hype. These works had officially broken into a new market and experienced a second wave of explosive popularity. And with it, the name Warrior of Love and Hope became widely known. Chapter 207. It's not that I lack vocabulary, it's just that there's no better way to express my shock than saying holy crap. The first time I read it, I didn't think much, I was too busy crying. But after watching an analysis and rereading it, I realized just how incredible this manga truly is. When Madoka made her wish, I got chills all over. I can only say that this plot twist is absolutely stunning, completely beyond my expectations. A masterpiece, without a doubt. I heard the anime is even more legendary, but unfortunately, it hasn't aired here yet. Wait, there's an anime? Hurry up and bring it over. Besides that, I think this is also a story about mutual salvation. Sayaka could save Kamaju's hand but not her own heart. Kyoko could save her family's livelihood but not the understanding and trust between father and daughter. Mommy could save her own life but could never escape the fate dictated by the system. Hamura couldn't save Madoka, nor could she save herself. And in the end, Madoka had to sacrifice herself to redeem all magical girls. We have a philosopher in the comments. Now that you put it that way, it really makes sense. I regret skipping over this manga just because of its title. I'm shedding tears of remorse. That's nothing. I only managed to buy the first volume of Madoka Magica. My suffering is on another level. I feel you. I didn't get the second volume of Anohana, either. Looking at my Your Lie in April collection, which only has volumes 1 to 6, I feel exhausted. Just end me already. This long review, posted by a popular content creator with millions of followers, quickly became one of the most viral posts in recent days. The analysis might not have used professional literary terms, and it didn't cover every aspect of Madoka Magica, but its simple and heartfelt words resonated with countless fans. Clearly, the creator understood this appeal, deliberately choosing straightforward, emotional language to communicate their thoughts. After all, as a major influencer, they could easily have crafted any kind of complex critique with the help of their team. Beyond this, many comments asked for similar deep dives into Anohana and Your Lie in April. Due to the overwhelming demand, the creator responded, "I'll work on reviews for Anohana and Your Lie in April as soon as possible." That said, in my heart, these two works don't quite reach the level of Madoka Magica. It's not that they aren't excellent, they absolutely are, but in a direct comparison, Madoka is just in a league of its own. Of course, I love these two stories as well. I also hope that the later volumes of Your Lie in April get released soon and that we can finally get the rights to Steins Gate. Oh, and one last thing, The Witch's House is an absolute masterpiece. Everyone, go buy it now. The first part of the response was fine, but that last sentence. Let's just hope that after experiencing The Witch's House, this creator doesn't get hunted down by their fans for recommending the biggest trap on the internet. Time passed quickly, and soon it was Saturday. Akifumi had no idea how much of an impact his works were having overseas. Mainly because he was too preoccupied with his new project, a massive story that required his full focus. Over breakfast, Mahiru curiously asked, "I heard your works have been released overseas. Do you know how they're doing?" "My editor hasn't updated me yet, but I assume everything's fine." In his past life, these series had left a significant mark on pop culture. Akifumi was confident they wouldn't have any trouble adapting to this new world. Besides, their sales tracking system is complex, so I doubt we'll get detailed numbers anytime soon. "I see." Mahiru nodded, a little disappointed, but then quickly smiled again. "Mujio-kun's works are amazing. I'm sure they're doing great." Mashiro, her mouth stuffed with Baumkuchen, nodded seriously, resembling a little squirrel hoarding food. Akifumi accepted their praise without hesitation. Of course. After breakfast, he returned to his room to work as usual. But before diving into writing, he decided to check his creator dashboard on the Steam platform. It had been a week since he last checked his game sales. "Last time I looked, the sales had already slowed down," he recalled. Daily sales had dropped to around 2,000 copies, indicating that the player base had mostly stabilized. At that point, the total sales were approaching 1.328 million copies. "I wonder if it'll hit 1.35 million? As these thoughts crossed his mind, the page refreshed. Then his eyes widened. Wait. How much? He quickly counted the digits. The number of figures hadn't changed, it was still in the millions. But the first digit had. The first number is a 3. The total sales now stood at 3.21 million copies. Wait a second. Each copy sold for 1,400 yen, with him taking a 70% cut. That meant, before taxes, he had just earned 3.13 billion yen. Hissing through his teeth, Akifumi felt a chill run down his spine. Even with his bank account already boasting countless zeros, this number was ridiculous. It wasn't that he wasn't used to big figures, it was just that he had never imagined this little indie game, created mostly for fun, would generate such an absurd amount of money. Oh, crap. An unexpected thought struck him. I suddenly feel like slacking off. Leaning back in his chair with a dumb grin, he scrolled through his sales data to pinpoint the reason for this insane boost. As expected, nearly 99% of the extra 2 million sales had come from overseas. Refreshing the page, he saw the sales counter jump by several hundred more copies. Their purchasing power is on a completely different level. He muttered in awe. Now, an unfamiliar feeling crept up inside him, anticipation. If The Witch's House, which had zero official marketing, could sell this well, then how much could his other works achieve with a full-scale publisher-backed campaign? For the first time, Akifumi, who was usually indifferent to sales figures, felt genuine excitement. Feeling reinvigorated, he dived back into working on his new project Clannad. Time flew by, and soon, night fell. And at precisely 8:00 p.m. that evening, the final episode of Steins Gate was about to air. Chapter 208, First. Final episode. Celebrating with flowers. LPSY Congru. Damn it. How did a 6-month series end in just 3 months? It's not enough. Well, even in anime form, sensei efficiency remains as terrifying as ever. The last attempt in episode 23, after Suzua's persuasion, Okabe found the courage to return to that fateful gate to save Kurisu. However, as expected, he failed. With despair threatening to consume him, Okabe teetered on the edge of collapse. Unlike before, There were no infinite do-overs, no more trial and error. He had only one last chance, one final fuel source to travel back in time. Even worse, the unbearable truth loomed over him: he had killed Makai's with his own hands. As his will crumbled, memories of his painful struggle to save Mayuri flooded his mind. No matter what he did, no matter how many times he tried, the convergence of worldlings always led to the same outcome, Makai's death. But just as he was about to give up, Mayuri's slap snapped him back to reality. At that moment, Suzu revealed an email, one recorded 15 years in the future, left behind by Okabe himself. The first failure had been anticipated. To reach the Stein-Gate world line and achieve the perfect ending, two crucial steps had to be taken: erase the time machine thesis that Dr. Nakabachi had taken to Russia. Save Makai's Kurisu. The convergence of worldlings was real, but so was the possibility of salvation. He couldn't change the past itself. He couldn't erase the moment he had witnessed. So instead he had to deceive. Deceive the world. And deceive even himself. The key to reaching Stein-Gate lay in making his past self believe that Kurisu had died, without actually letting her die. And so, the final operation, codenamed Schrödinger, began. Not changing the past, only altering the outcome. Deception. Deceiving the entire world. Okabe, a man who logically should not exist in that moment, would pull off the ultimate illusion, stealing Kurisu away from the clutches of death itself. As time ticked away, the climax of the story unfolded. Even though fans knew the ending would be a success, they still held their breath, captivated by the journey. When Okabe's carefully laid out plan encountered an unexpected flaw, the fake blood had congealed, the viewers collectively tensed up. What now? How would he handle this? But there was no time to think. Kurisu had already met with her father. That's when Okabe had an idea. As he provoked Dr. Nakabachi with taunts, the audience watched in horror as the knife plunged into Okabe's stomach. Gasps filled the room. And yet, a realization dawned: this was Okabe's plan all along. With Nakabachi fleeing in fear, Kurisu grabbed her phone to call an ambulance. Okabe, seizing the moment, knocked her unconscious with a stun gun. Yet it wasn't enough. The blood spilled was insufficient to recreate the scene he had once witnessed. So, in a dramatic close-up, Okabe reached out his left hand and plunged it into his own wound, widening it further. Blood poured out. The illusion was complete. As the stunned audience processed what had just happened, a wave of raw emotion surged through them. One after another, teary messages scrolled across the screen. This protagonist, once ridiculed for his delusional ramblings, had now earned the unwavering admiration of all who watched. With the mission complete, the story neared its final moments. One by one, Okabe handed out badges symbolizing their lab membership. As he walked through the city, he found himself wondering, what was Kurisu doing now? What was she thinking? A special scene unfolded. A fateful encounter. The two passed each other on the street. And then Kurisu called out to him. The future remained uncertain. But like this reunion, it was full of endless possibilities. This was the choice of Stein-Gate. As their gazes met, the story came to an end. LPSY Congru. Unified cheers flooded the screen, a mix of reluctance and heartfelt blessings from devoted fans. It's over. Ayuri's voice carried a trace of melancholy. It wasn't just her. Anyone who had experienced a truly great story knew this feeling, this lingering emptiness when it all came to an end. Emotionally, they wanted more. Rationally, they knew it was truly over. No more new chapters. No more unseen adventures. While the feeling would fade over time, the immediate impact was overwhelming. Faced with Ayuri's question, Akifumi didn't hesitate. Yes, it's over. There will be no sequel. Although the original trajectory included Steins-Gate 0, Akifumi had no intention of creating it. If fans wanted the full story, they would have to play the Stein-Gate visual novel. The anime had skipped countless branching routes. But Akifumi had no plans to develop a visual novel himself. It was too much work, with too little reward. Just like Clannad that he planned to draw, but had no interest in adapting it into a game. Though an OVA for episode 25 is possible. He mused. After all, it would only be about 20 minutes long, with a manageable script. Hearing this, Ayuri let out a disappointed sigh. She murmured under her breath, there's still so much more that could be explored. What a shame. Stories involving time travel always had room for expansion, just like Well or Meiji Madoka Magica. But ultimately, the decision rested with the creator. No one else had a say. Pretending not to hear her sigh, Akifumi casually said, it's late. I'll walk you home. A faint blush spread across Ayuri's cheeks as she avoided his gaze. Well, actually, before I left, I already told Mom that I wouldn't be coming home tonight. We're having a training camp. Not going home? Akifumi Mujio blinked. Then, a knowing smile spread across his face. Chapter 209, come here, and gimme your hand for a second, my hand. What are you gonna do with it? Ariri tilted her head, with a puzzled look, but she still did as Akifumi said. Without hesitation, Akifumi gently wrapped both of his hands around hers, his warmth instantly seeping into her cold fingers, massaging them. Ah! Having someone massage your hand and warm you up is a great way to relax when you're stressed and tired. Akifumi said softly. Yeah, I can feel it. It's kinda a weird way to massage my hands, but I kinda like it. A small chuckle escaped her lips. I have to stop myself from grinning like an idiot. Who says you have to? Akifumi smirked. We're the only ones here right now. Grin all you want. I mean, yeah. But grinning like a fool just 'cause my boyfriend's next to me? That'd be way too embarrassing. It's like one of those cliché anime where girls hopelessly in love with the protagonist. Who cares about that? I'm the only one here, so I'm the only one who will see it. That's exactly why. Ariri huffed, her face slightly red. I don't want you to see it. Because you will use it against me. You will tease me non-stop about it, right? Akifumi let out a soft chuckle. What? I wouldn't do that. I'm not gonna upset you and ruin this precious time we have together right now. His grip on her hand tightened slightly. But anyway, you deserve a break after everything today. I'll do anything to be of service to you, my lady. Huh. I like that. Kinda sounds like you're my servant. She smirked. Very well, you may serve me. Akifumi wasn't much of a masochist, but something about the way she said that was making him feel a little uneasy. Still, he continued the massage and watching as Ariri's tense shoulders slowly relaxed. You know, your hand massage feels really good. A lot better than I expected. A brief silence settled between them before Akifumi spoke again, his tone more serious this time. Have you and Miharu already talked? Ariri's fingers twitched in his grasp. Yeah, we already talked. She let out a deep sigh and slumped on his side. Akifumi blinked. Oh? She told me everything, how she feels about you and how she doesn't want to give up on you. And? Ariri hesitated, gripping his hand tighter. I realized something. I don't want to give up on you either. Akifumi remained quiet, his thumb gently stroking the back of her hand, silently encouraging her to continue. So instead of fighting over you, we thought. Why not just share? Akifumi's entire body froze. Huh? Ariri smirked, though her cheeks were slightly pink. What? Don't act so surprised. Miharu and I already agree on it. We both love you and neither of us wants to step aside. And honestly. She averted her gaze, fidgeting. I kinda like the idea of us being together, all three of us. I mean, Miharu's my friend too. I like her, and if it's her, then... Akifumi swallowed. Are you saying you're okay with this? Like, actually okay? Well, duh. I just said that, didn't I? Ariri puffed her cheeks before quickly deflating. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's still weird. I never thought I'd be in a relationship like this, but when I really thought about it, the idea of not being with you was way worse. Akifumi felt his heart ache at her words. He squeezed her hand tighter. Ariri. Thank you. She immediately waved him off, looking flustered. Ugh, don't give me that mushy look. It's already embarrassing enough saying all this out loud, and you already take my first time. You better take responsibility for it. Akifumi chuckled. Okay. Don't make me regret it. She huffed, though her expression was softer than before. Hey, Akifumi? Her voice was quieter now. Yeah? She hesitated, then muttered, You like my chest size too, right? Akifumi blinked. Huh? Ariri fidgeted, avoiding his gaze. No, it's not like that, it's just that Miharu has, a pretty big chest. And I know guys are into that. So, I was just wondering if you ever felt like you liked Miharu more than me because of that? Akifumi stared at her for a moment before a short laugh escaped his lips. Why? Don't laugh, you idiot, this is a serious question. Ariri's face turned crimson. I'm not laughing at you, he said, shaking his head. I just didn't expect you to ask me something like that. Well, it's a valid question. Akifumi tilted his head. Ariri, do you seriously think I'm that shallow? I don't know. She crossed her arms, puffing out her cheeks again. Guys are weak to certain things. And I know I'm not exactly as gifted as Miharu. Akifumi let out a soft sigh before leaning in closer. Ariri. Look at me. She hesitantly met his gaze, her blue eyes flickering with uncertainty. I like you and Miharu for who you are. Your attitude, your stubbornness, the way you get all flustered when I tease you. He smirked. Not to mention, You're absolutely adorable when you let your guard down like this. Ariri's face turned even redder. Shut up. And for the record, I already told you this before, I think you're perfect the way you are. So stop worrying about dumb things like that, okay? Ariri remained silent for a few seconds before muttering under her breath, then prove it to me again. Okifumi blinked. What did you just say? I said I want some proof mhhhhhh. Before she could finish, Okifumi cut her off by pressing his lips against hers. Her body instinctively leaning into him. She huffed against his lips but didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers gripping onto his sleeve tightly. Chapter 210, NNH. MLLN. Pa. Their lips parted for a moment. How was that? Proof enough for you? Okifumi asked. Why yes, but still. Ariri fidgeted as she pulled the hem of her clothes. Her cheeks flushed a deep crimson. She looked really cute when she was flustered like this. Overcome by her cuteness, Okifumi pulled her into a tight embrace, his arms wrapping around her slender frame. Ah! She gasped softly, her body tensing for a moment before melting into his warmth. I love it when you get all shy like this. He murmured, his lips brushing against her ear. It's so cute. Don't get excited over weird stuff like that, you idiot. She stammered. But Okifumi didn't give her a chance to protest further. He leaned in, capturing her lips in a soft yet insistent kiss. His hands cradled her face, his touch gentle but firm. MMH. MMPH. Wait, just a second. Ariri managed to pull away, her breath coming in short, uneven bursts. What's wrong? Okifumi asked, his voice tinged with amusement. Why, you got to do everything you wanted last time. She said. Let me do it this time. Oh? And what exactly do you have in mind? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Well. I'm just going to take care of the foreplay this time, okay? She said, now her voice dropping to a whisper. I'm going to. Help you with that. That? What do you mean? He pressed, a smirk tugging at his lips. I'm going to. Rub your. You know. Her voice trailed off, her face burning even brighter. Don't make me spell it out for you. She finally burst out, her hands flying to Okifumi pants in embarrassment. Just. Get it out where I can see it. Hey, calm down. Okifumi laughed, holding up his hands in mock surrender. Okay, stop for a moment, no need to pull my pants off. Okifumi then started to undress and pull down his pants. His arousal was evident, his length already hard and straining against the fabric of his underwear. Whoa. She breathed, her eyes widening. I've never seen it this close before. It's crazy that something this big actually fit inside me. I still can't believe it. Okifumi's expression softened. Speaking of that, are you okay? You know, your first time? It hurt a little afterward. She admitted, her voice quiet. But it's fine now. Really? So you got hurt? He asked, concern flickering in his eyes. Only after we did it. She reassured him. I didn't feel anything when we doing it, and it's all gone now, so don't worry. Phew, that's a relief. He said, letting out a sigh. Okay, let me do it now, she said while her fingers brushing against his dick. Yeah. So, what are you planning to do? He asked, his voice catching as her touch sent a jolt of electricity through him. Ariri didn't answer with words. Instead, her hands found his shaft and her fingers wrapping around it tentatively. Pretty much all guys like this, right? She asked. Yeah, I guess that's true for most guys. He replied, his breath hitching as her grip tightened slightly. So, how does it feel? Does it feel good? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before he could answer, she leaned down, her lips brushing against the tip of his length. Her tongue darted out, tracing a slow, teasing path along his sensitive skin. MMH. MLLN. She murmured, her breath warm against him. Okifumi's hips bucked involuntarily, a low groan escaping his lips. Ariri. This is payback for last time. She said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Mwakama NGGHH. Lick. KHH, wait, Ariri. Okifumi gasped, he put his hands on her hair to stop. But she didn't stop. Her tongue danced over his tip, her touch light but electrifying. Every lick sent waves of pleasure coursing through him. MMH. How's this? She asked, her voice muffled as she took him deeper into her mouth. It's amazing. But where did you learn to do this? Her shoulders stiffened, and she pulled away, her face flushed. That's none of your business. She snapped, her embarrassment evident. Okifumi chuckled. Oh? Don't tell me you imagine doing this while drawing your jinshai? So Ariri is a lewd girl. I said it's none of your business. She huffed, her grip tightening around him. If you don't stop talking, I'll bite it off. Okay, I'll stop. Okifumi said, raising his hands in surrender. Just be gentle, please. I'll make you pay for this. Ariri muttered, and she put her lips forward, closing around him once more. MMH, moi, MLNN. Suck. NNH. Ariri's moved her hand as she reached for his shaft once more, her tongue darting out to meet it. She traced the entire length of Okifumi's cock, coating it in a slick layer of her saliva. Every stroke of her hand sent a pulse through him, especially as she brought him closer to her warm, inviting mouth. Mh.lick. MMPH, moi, NNGH. Her soft, wet sounds filled the air, each one sending shivers down Okifumi's spine. MMH, MLLN, MLLNNGH, MMGH. Mwa, NNGH, MMH. A hot, tingling sensation surged through Okifumi's body, radiating to the very tips of his fingers and toes. He could feel the pressure building, a wave of pleasure threatening to overtake him. But he couldn't let it end so soon, not after only a few seconds. Moi. Lick. MMPH, MNNGH. Ariri? She glanced up at him, her mouth still pressed against his throbbing dick. Can you put it in your mouth? Oh, okay. NNGH, nom. Ariri nodded, her lips parting as she took him into her mouth, her warm breath sending a jolt of pleasure through him. Oh. Okifumi exhaled sharply. MMPH. Slurp suck. MLLNNN. Ariri's tongue swirled around the sensitive tip, teasing him with practiced precision. Okifumi's hips bucked involuntarily, pushing himself deeper into the heat of her mouth. MMPH. Nom, moi. MLLNN, SLRRP. Her saliva coated his dick even more, the slick sounds of her licking filling the room. Her eyes fluttered shut as she stroked him gently. MMPH, moi, MMMH. MLLNN, NNGH, moi. Moi. MMH, NNGH. MMH. SLRRRP. The way Ariri worked to keep every drop of her saliva from spilling out only heightened Okifumi's pleasure. Each time her lips moved around him, his cock pulsed in response. MMPH, suck. NNNHH, SLLRRP, NNGH. Gulp, bwah. Hee, do you regret it now? She teased, pulling away briefly. Yeah. I feel like I'm about to explode. Alright, let me continue. NNH, SLRRP. KHH. Okifumi groaned, his hands gripping the bedsheets as Ariri took his dick deeper, her tongue exploring every inch of it. MMMH, MMPH, MLNNN. SLRRP, NNNGH, MMPH. Her gaze locked onto his as she focused entirely on pleasuring him. She swirled her tongue around the tip, still firmly clasped inside her mouth, before taking him deeper. SLLLLRRRP. NNGH, MMGH. Suck. MMMH. Moi. MMHHH, SLLP, NNH, MMH. Then, with a soft gasp, Ariri took his dick even further and the tip of his cock brushing against the back of her throat. NNH, NNGH. Cough. MMMH. Ariri? Don't force yourself, okay? She nodded slightly, her movements becoming more rhythmic as she bobbed her head up and down, careful not to choke. MMH, MMH. MMH, moi, nom, NNM. SLRRP. Okifumi's breath hitched as the thickest part of his shaft slid through her tightly closed lips. SLLRRP, SLLRRP. Suck. MMH, MLLNNN, MMPH. Nom. MMH, fwa. Ah. Okifumi moaned, unable to hold back any longer. Ariri's tongue found every sensitive spot, and her soft wet caresses driving him closer to the edge. MMH. Lick suck, MMPH. MMH, MMH, MMMH. NNGH, moi. MMH, MMPH. SLRRP, MMMH, SLRRP. As Ariri continued and one of her hands drifted downward, her entrance with her fingers starting touching it. Nha. Akamahe. MMH, M. MMPH, MSLRRP. MMH, MMGH, NNNGH. SLRRP, NNH, Na. Her moans vibrated against Okifumi's dick as the wet sounds of her self-pleasure mingling with the loud, rhythmic sucking. MMH. MLLN, MMPH. MMH. NNGH, lick. MMH. NNNH. HFFFMMM, MMH. NNGH, SLRRRP, SLRRRP. Ariri's movements grew more frantic as her mouth sucking him with feverish intensity as she brought herself closer to climax. Ariri. Holy crap. MMH. D, don't hold back. Just let it all out. MMGH. Suck suck. MMMH, MLLLNN, NMGH, MMPH. MMH, moi, MMJ, MMH suck suck. NMGH. Akifumi could feel himself teetering on the edge, his body trembling with the need to release. NMGH, Ariri, I'm getting close. Hearing his warning, Ariri doubled her efforts, her lips started sealing tightly around his dick as she sucked with relentless determination. MMH, MMMH. Lick lick. MMGH, SLRRRRP. MMGH, MMH, MMH, MMMH. MMGH, SLRRRP, MMMH. MMPH, NNH. MLLN, MLLNNN. MMGH. SLRRRP. Ariri. I'm gonna come. Nom, suck suck. MMMH exclamation mark MMGH, NNGH. Her hot, nimble tongue ravished his dick and her tight lips pushing him over the edge. MMH, NNGH, SLRRP, SLLLLRRRP. MMMH. I'm coming. Ariri. MMGH, MMH. SLRRP, SLRRP. Ariri's powerful sucking drew every last drop from him while she also reached her own climax simultaneously. Juices gushed from her entrance as she moaned loudly. MMGH, MMH exclamation mark gulp gulp gulp. She tried to catch all of it in her mouth, but some escaped streaking across her face. MMH. Gulp. MMGH. Cough. Heh. Coughing slightly, she managed to swallow as her moans echoing through the room. MMH, MMGH, Fwa. Her body trembled, still riding the waves of her own pleasure. Heh heh. Cough cough. Are you okay, Ariri? Why yes, I'm fine. She smiled up at him, her face glistening with his release. MHH, I can't get all of it off. MHH, you came way too much. Is your dick even alright? I don't know. You're so cute, and your blowjob was way better than I ever imagined. You might have broken me. Despite releasing a lot, Kifumi's dick twitched and still eager for more. Heh heh. I'll make you clean again. Ariri wiped the cum from her face with her fingers, then spread the warm liquid over his shaft. Nom, SLRRP. Without hesitation, she took him into her mouth once more, her tongue cleaning him with slow, deliberate strokes. Suck suck. SLRRP, MMGH, gulp gulp. Mha, MLLNN, MLLN. MMH, suck MMH, gulp.NNH. When she finally pulled away, gasping for breath, and Akifumi couldn't help but smile. Chapter 211, Ha. You're on a roll today, Ariri. Akifumi grinned. But now, it's my turn to make you feel good. Fwa. Ariri gasped as Akifumi lifted her effortlessly and gently laying her down on the soft bed. I'm going to put it in now, Ariri. Wait, it's my turn. Before Ariri could finish her sentence, Akifumi pressed the tip of his dick against her entrance. She was already wet and ready, and her body betraying her protests. There was no need for further foreplay. In one swift motion, Akifumi buried himself deep inside her, and a sharp gasp coming from Ariri. Nha. Her hips bucked instinctively as she took him in completely, and her body trembling at the overwhelming sensation. NNGH, MMMH exclamation mark. Her moans filled the room again, her entire body quivering with pleasure. Ariri, you came again, didn't you? Akifumi teased. I know, stupid. I just came a moment ago, she said while her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Are you that sensitive right now? Yeah. Ariri's gaze met his, her eyes deep and pleading. So please. Be gentle. Ariri. Akifumi's voice softened. I'm sorry, but I'll make you feel so good that you might faint. Huh? Wow, wait, that's not what I meant. Eek exclamation mark. Before she could protest further, Akifumi began rocking his hips, setting a steady rhythm that left Ariri writhing beneath him. Exclamation mark MMH exclamation mark. Her moans grew louder, her body arching in response to his movements. Wow. You're incredibly tight. That's because you. EKK. Akifumi slammed his hips against hers mid-sentence, driving himself deeper inside her. Exclamation mark. I was talking, stupid. Wait. Exclamation mark. Just enjoy it, Ariri. It already feels good. Slow down. Exclamation mark. I said, take it easy. No. If you go that hard, I'm gonna. NNNH, MMMHHH exclamation mark. Hariri's back arched as another wave of pleasure crashed over her, her climax sending a rush of warmth between them. Fwa. MMH exclamation mark. You're being so rough. NNGH, exclamation mark. You're so slippery inside. I can slide in and out so easily. Idiot, you don't have to say that out loud. Exclamation mark. Eek exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Akifumi lengthened his strokes, his shaft plunging into her slick warmth with effortless precision. Each thrust drew a tight squeeze from her, the sensation driving him closer to the edge. Exclamation mark. Eek. Exclamation mark. And NNH, MMMH. MMH exclamation mark. NNGH, Fwa, exclamation mark. Why you're so deep. Wait, my body shakes whenever you hit that one spot. Exclamation mark. Akifumi watched her ABS contract with every thrust, the sight of her responsiveness only fueling his desire. His pulse quickened, his body craving more. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. You're going too fast. Fwa. Can I try hitting that one spot again? No, not there. Question mark. Akifumi found her weak spot with ease, grinding against it relentlessly. I said way. Exclamation mark. I just want you to feel as good as possible. I'm already feeling amazing. Exclamation mark. No. Exclamation mark. MMMH exclamation mark. Fwa. Exclamation mark. That's my most sensitive spot. Ariri's reactions were most intense when he hit her front wall, just inside and slightly upward. Her body shook uncontrollably as he angled himself to strike it repeatedly. Eek. Exclamation mark. And MMH. You keep hitting the same spot. Exclamation mark. Why you're making me feel all weird. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. Fwa. Exclamation mark. Juices spilled from her with every thrust, the sheets beneath them growing damp. MMH. Exclamation mark. And exclamation mark. MMMH. Please slow down. Reluctantly, Akifumi complied, giving them both a moment to catch their breath. NNGH. But the respite was short-lived. Soon, Akifumi resumed his pace, slamming into her with renewed vigor. Exclamation mark. You're doing it again? Eek. Eek exclamation mark. Wait exclamation mark. Why you keep making me come? I think I'm seeing stars. Eek exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. NNGH. Holy crap. I'm getting close, too, Ariri. Maingekyo. I want your cum. Lots of it. Alright, I'll give you what you want. Akifumi focused on her deepest spot, his thrusts growing more urgent. Ariri's body glistened with sweat, her skin slick as she writhed beneath him. Exclamation mark. MMMH exclamation mark. Maingekyo, you stupid, hurry. I've been coming this whole time already. SS. NNGH exclamation mark. KKH, I'm almost there. Exclamation mark. Fwa, exclamation mark. I can't. Eek. Exclamation mark. Akifumi lifted her hips, slamming into her with all his strength. His tip kissed the entrance of her womb repeatedly, each thrust pushing her closer to the edge. Exclamation mark. I'm coming, I'm coming, exclamation mark. NNGH. Me too. Here it comes, Ariri. Akifumi tightened his grip on her legs, his body tensing as he released himself inside her. Exclamation mark. Ariri's body convulsed violently, her climax triggering his own. Waves of pleasure crashed over them, leaving them gasping and trembling. Exclamation mark. NNGH, exclamation mark. Eek. When the storm of ecstasy finally subsided, they lay side by side, their bodies spent and their breaths ragged. I almost died there, you bastard. But I already said I'd make you feel good. It did feel good. But you were way too rough. The sight of Ariri panting, her eyes dazed and her body still trembling, stirred something in Akifumi. Despite having just climaxed, his arousal showed no signs of fading. Why is your dick still so? Eep. Wait. Sorry, Ariri. Let's do it one more time. Eek. No, you jerk, you're making me go crazy. Akifumi began thrusting into her again, her body still slick with their shared release. Exclamation mark. And no, I'm gonna come again. Exclamation mark. Maingekyo. Exclamation mark. I'm coming. NGGH, NNNGH exclamation mark. NNH, Fwa. Several hours later. Okafumi's showed no signs of stopping. His arousal is still unwavering as he continued to thrust inside Ariri. Her body now glistening and trembling, the evidence of their passion, Okafumi each movement drawing soft moans from her lips. Ariri's consciousness barely there, her responses growing sluggish as exhaustion crept in. Yet, even in her state, she still clung to him, her body instinctively reacting to his every touch. Ah. Mugio. More, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Ariri. Okafumi said as he leaned in, capturing her lips in a deep kiss. Their tongues intertwined, a silent exchange of longing and affection. Mwah. MLLN, MMH. Fwa. Her moans melted into the kiss, her body twitching faintly as waves of pleasure continued to ripple through her. Okafumi's breaths grew ragged, his voice trembling as he spoke. Ariri. I'm going to. Again. MMH. Give it all to me. She whispered, her words slurred but filled with desire. With a final, powerful thrust, he buried himself as deeply as he could, his release surging into her with an intensity that left them both breathless. Kamehameha! Ah. Ah. Ariri's voice broke as her body shuddered, overwhelmed by the sensation. As Okafumi's strength waned, his body finally began to relax, his softening length slipping free from her. Her body, stretched and filled, trembled faintly as she lay there, utterly spent. Ah, MMH. She whimpered, her voice barely audible. Okafumi gazed down at her, his eyes filled with warmth and affection. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her in a protective embrace. Idiot. If I get pregnant, I will not let you run. Ariri murmured, her voice tinged with both worry and hope. Don't worry, then I'll take responsibility for it. He replied without hesitation, his voice steady and sincere. A weak but tender smile spread across Ariri's lips as she nestled into his chest. Mugio. She whispered his name like a gentle plea not to leave her. He held her tighter, pressing gentle kisses to her forehead, her cheeks, and finally her lips. Their kisses were slow and lazy, a quiet celebration of their connection. MMH, moi. Miles per hour, MMH. The sound of their shared breaths filled the room, a peaceful rhythm that spoke of their bond. When their lips finally parted, Ariri's eyes opened, her eyes and meeting his gaze. Mugio. I love you. I love you too, Ariri. Chapter 212, It's over. But why do I feel so reluctant to let it go when it was such a great ending? Starting next week, there will be no more Okabe and his Chuni antics, no more Daru. No more assistant. Isn't that just another kind of heartbreak? You guys are really stretching it by calling this heartbreak. After watching Steins Gate, everything else just feels a little lacking. Damn that bastard. He's raised our standards so high, how are we supposed to move on now? After finishing Steins Gate, I can't decide if I want him to keep writing anime scripts or go back to drawing manga. I'm torn. Relax, relax. With his work efficiency, he won't be held back no matter what he does. Speaking of which, at first, Okabe's over-the-top Chuni behavior made me cringe so hard I could dig a hole in the floor. But then, during the middle episodes, when those antics faded, I actually started to miss them. And by the final episode, I felt completely fired up. So weird. You're not alone, brother. Those last 2 episodes, with Okabe's peak Chuni lines and dramatic movements, had me hyped beyond belief. Isn't that perfectly normal? It mirrors Okabe's character development, from a simple Chuni at the start, to realizing the weight of his actions and being unable to maintain that mindset anymore, and finally, reaching a point where he fully accepts his burden. Different phases bring different emotions. Wow, I never realized there was such a deep metaphor behind it. But I feel like the last 2 episodes were a bit rushed. They could have expanded the story a lot more, even continuing into the future wouldn't have been surprising. You fool, did you even notice how much build-up they did beforehand? The ending wasn't rushed at all. No matter what, this series is undoubtedly a masterpiece in my heart. Absolutely phenomenal. Steins Gate truly deserves to be called a masterpiece. Whenever a great series reaches its conclusion, discussions naturally surge. Fans eagerly engage in conversations, further influencing others in the community. Steins Gate had been a hot topic since its premiere, and its finale only fueled the fire. This kind of buzz inevitably attracts new viewers, some of whom eventually become fans of the creator known as Warrior of Love and Hope. As fans, it's natural to want to explore other works by a creator they admire. This cycle of exposure continuously boosts the sales of previous works. Of course, the increase in sales is nowhere near the surge seen when a new work is released, but even slow growth outpaces natural stagnation. More importantly, it ensures a steady, long-term stream of revenue. That's why in this industry, constant creation is key to financial success. Banking on one big hit to sustain a lifetime is simply unrealistic. Just like the author of Death Note once said, if he stopped drawing manga, he'd burn through his royalties in just a few years. Now, Akifumi had truly embraced the joy of being a creator. He had no intention of stopping. If anything, it was his passion for creation, fueled by the presence of love and hope, that drove him to spend so much time drawing every day. Maybe the story wasn't originally his, but through infusing his own ideas and painstakingly illustrating each panel, his skills had undeniably improved. And that was something no one could take away from him. For all anime fans, this Sunday undoubtedly belonged to Steins Gate. However, Akifumi didn't spend much time reading through online discussions. Steins Gate's excellence was universally acknowledged. There was nothing to worry about. When Monday arrived, Akifumi went to school as usual with Miharu and Mashiro. Upon entering the classroom, "Good morning, Akifumi." "Good morning, Kato." Akifumi smiled as he responded. "I finished Steins Gate too. It's good anime." "Really?" Being praised face to face by a friend, was this supposed to be such a delightful feeling? His mood instantly lifted. "It really makes me wonder how your brain comes up with these stories, Akifumi." Akifumi's smile stiffened. Whoa, that makes it sound like a horror story." Kato chuckled before casually changing the subject. "Can't believe it's already June. Is June some special month?" "You said the same thing last year." Kato sighed in exasperation. "It's your birthday, Akifumi. At least try to remember it." "Oh, so that's what it was." Akifumi chuckled. "Of course, I remember my own birthday. But it's not that big of a deal. I don't think there's any need to make a fuss over it." "Not a big deal?" Kato sighed again, feeling conflicted. "Then why did you get me such an expensive gift last year?" "I'm still agonizing over what to get you in return." "It was just a bag. Nothing that extravagant." Akifumi waved his hand dismissively. "If you're really struggling, just do what you did for Christmas, make me a handmade gift." "Well, I guess that works." Kato nodded but couldn't help sighing again. "I'm not as rich as you, Akifumi. I can't afford anything fancy." "Friendship is priceless, isn't it?" Kato shook her head and dropped the subject. After school, Miharu, who had overheard Akifumi and Kato's conversation that morning, was visibly troubled. After hesitating for a while, she finally spoke up. "Mugio-kun. Is there anything you want for your birthday?" "Nope." Miharu sighed, looking as though she expected that answer. Despite working hard every day and earning so much money, he hardly ever spent it. His hobbies were mostly limited to games and novels. What should I get him? Could it be? Do I really have to go with Eriri's suggestion? The memory of Eriri whispering her bold idea into Miharu's ear yesterday morning suddenly resurfaced. Miharu's cheeks instantly flushed pink. She always seemed so composed, but who would have thought she could be so daring? Chapter 213, Capita Skyrower, Singapore. Speaking of which, isn't Mugio turning 18 soon? A man spoke, his face bearing a striking resemblance to Mugio's, though more mature and exuding a natural air of authority. 15 more days, replied an elegant woman with a graceful demeanor. It's been over a year since we last went back, yet that kid doesn't seem the least bit curious. Akifumi sighed helplessly. Akifumi Nakui also let out a soft sigh. Got himself a girlfriend and forgot about his mother, huh? Despite her words, a gentle smile graced her lips. So, are we really not telling him the truth when he turns 18? She asked after a brief pause. After some thought, he shook his head. Well, let's just see. He's already expanding his own business over there, and he's doing something he genuinely enjoys. If we tell him the truth, he might just lose all motivation. Mugio had no idea that his parents were the masterminds behind a vast business empire spanning industries from machinery to agriculture across the globe. Their influence stretched far and wide, surpassing even the powerful Shinigami family. The reason the Mugio family held such immense power was because his father were the founding members who established the Allen Institute. The Allen Institute is a global organization dedicated to discovering struggling geniuses and providing them with free support, whether in sports, literature, entertainment, medicine, or technology. Many of the talents nurtured by the Allen Institute eventually collaborate with it to establish business ventures aligned with their individual skills. Tokyo Animation Studio, DA, and Garden were just the tip of the iceberg of what the children of Allen had built. However, this success came at a cost. His family became a high-profile target, which is why Mugio's father took his wife Nakui's surname, adopting the name Akifumi to conceal their true identity from the world and only some people who know it. Publicly, they appeared only as successful scholars who constantly traveled abroad, an image that helped hide their role in managing a global enterprise and explained why they were always so busy and rarely home. All of this was done so that Akifumi could live a normal life. For Mugio, This revelation would forever change how he saw his family. Nikui nodded. You have a point. We'll tell him when he's a bit older. By the way, how's your doing over there? Has she been able to keep things under wraps from Mugio? Mugio father suddenly inquired. I'm not sure if she's managed to keep things hidden, but she seems to be enjoying herself over there. That's good to hear. Mugio father nodded approvingly. After all, they had taken her in with her brother as a child. Although, for some reason, as she grew older, she started developing in an unexpected direction. But as long as she was happy, that was all that mattered. Have you thought of an excuse this time? Nikui asked. Can't you come up with one for a change? Mugio father replied, exasperated. Every time I have to make something up, I feel like the kid is already getting suspicious. If I do it, we'll get exposed even faster. Akifumi shook his head and dropped the topic. By the way, Mugio's manga series are unexpectedly well received on foreign country as well. In such a short time, each volume is already approaching 1 million sales. Well, of course. He's our son, after all. Nikui said proudly. Wasn't this the same woman who was sobbing like a child when she got emotionally wrecked by those very same manga? Mugio father wisely chose not to say this aloud unless he wanted to get beaten up. Unaware of her husband's thoughts, Nikui sighed again. I just wonder how long we'll have to wait before we get to hold a grandchild. That escalated quickly. For once, Mugio father found himself on the same page. His eyes sparkled with anticipation. Hopefully, not too long. That way, even if Mugio refuses to take over the family business, our grandchild can. I'm still healthy and strong, I can hold out until then. Before Nikui could even respond, Akifumi added, of course, it ultimately depends on their own interests. If they're not interested, we won't force them. Having experienced a childhood devoid of freedom themselves, they didn't want their child to suffer the same fate. Since they were already managing the conglomerate's affairs, there was no need to expose Mugio with responsibilities and danger he didn't ask for. A happy and carefree childhood was far more important. The same would apply to their grandchildren. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to such lengths to keep the truth from him, let alone send him off to Japan in the first place. I don't think we need to worry about that. Nikui said with a different perspective. As long as he has more kids, at least one of them will probably be interested in the family business. Akifumi thought about it and nodded in agreement. After all, he had always been with just Nikui and their only son, Mugio. But their son? He wasn't exactly the most reserved person. From the information Mugio father had gathered, there were plenty of girls interested in him. They had only one son, and that made him a target. If they didn't hide the truth, others would hunt him down, seeking to exploit the family's wealth and power through him. Worse yet, he would never know if a relationship was genuine or just another scheme for profit. Inheriting the family businesses meant more than carrying on a legacy, it meant a life of constant calculation, where every decision revolved around gains and losses. For Mugio's parents, shielding him from this reality was the only way to protect his future. But with grandchildren? There would definitely be more than one, and then they could make their own choices. Well, let's just let things unfold naturally. Akifumi concluded before frowning in frustration. Damn it. I've used almost every possible excuse already. What the hell am I supposed to say this time to explain why we haven't gone back in a year without making him suspicious? Meanwhile in Japan, Akifumi Mugio had no idea his parents were fretting over him. Just as they were thinking about him, he was also thinking about them. Honestly, after a year of living without their supervision, I have to admit it's been incredibly freeing. But still, are those two really okay? No matter how busy they were, it made no sense for them to be gone for an entire year without coming home even once. The only possible explanation Akifumi could think of was that their freedom had been restricted. His mind wandered to recent news about people getting lured into scams in Myanmar. Wait, did they get tricked and end up in that kind of place? He recalled their kind and naive smiles. They do seem surprisingly easy to fool. Sighing, he shook his head. Of course, if they had really been trafficked somewhere, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to contact him. Yet they still called regularly, sometimes once a week, at the longest, once every 2 weeks. I just don't get it. Shoving his thoughts aside, Akifumi stepped off the train. Earlier, his novel editor Machida had called him about something important. Most likely, it was related to that so-called surprise she had hinted at before. At this point, he already had a solid guess about what it was. Since it was just after 4 p.m., the subway wasn't too crowded. As he walked out of the station, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. Akifumi-kun? Kazekage-senpai? He turned in surprise to find himself walking alongside a familiar girl. She was dressed in a simple gray short-sleeve top and a matching gray plaid skirt. Her legs, as always, were clad in sheer black stockings that carried an inexplicable allure. The last time they had seen each other was back at school before spring break. Back then, they had only exchanged a brief nod as a greeting. Now, 2 months later, she had entered university, her subtle makeup adding a touch of elegance and maturity to her already striking features. Chapter 214, there was no denying it when someone was beautiful, they looked stunning no matter what they wore. Akifumi withdrew his gaze and smiled. It's been a while, Kazekage-senpai. Kazekage Utaha snapped back to reality, returning his smile with a polite nod. It has been. Congratulations on getting into the University of Tokyo. Everyone at school is so proud of you. I'll gladly accept the congratulations, but... Are you sure that last part wasn't about yourself? Utaha smirked playfully. After all, compared to being a University of Tokyo student, isn't Warrior of Love and Hope Sensei is a much more impressive title? Not at all. Akifumi replied without hesitation. If you ever decide to enter politics, senpai, I'm sure you'll shine just as brightly. Compared to that, what I do just drawing some silly manga barely even counts as an achievement. If that's the case, then as a so-called mediocre novelist, I should be even lower on the totem pole. Utaha sighed. I've never once considered a career in politics. Faced with her flawless rebuttal, Akifumi could only offer a wry smile before tactfully changing the subject. Are you meeting with editor Machida today as well, senpai? Yeah, just the usual, letting her review my manuscript. Akifumi already knew who her editor was. Not because he had any special insider knowledge from being a transmigrator, but because he had once run into Machida Sanogo after discussing World End with her. You've been refining this new work for so long I can't help but look forward to it. Utaha let out a deep sigh. Honestly, I just wish I could be like you. Publishing independently, without having to follow my editor's every whim. Damn it. Whoever said this woman was just a sharp-tongued tsundere clearly hadn't met her. With flattery like that, even Akifumi was starting to feel a little self-conscious. Their casual conversation continued as they arrived at the publishing company's headquarters. Waiting at the entrance, Machida Sanogo caught sight of the two walking side by side and raised an eyebrow in surprise before greeting them with a teasing smile. Well, I never expected to see you two together like this. Together? Akifumi blinked and instinctively glanced at Utaha. The moment she processed Machida's words, a faint blush spread across her pale cheeks. Is this really the vocabulary level of an editor-in-chief, the one in charge of my work, no less? Utaha grumbled. Machida feigned innocence. What? Did I say something wrong? I'm suddenly feeling the urge to switch editors. Just a regular one will do. Wisely deciding not to involve himself in their banter, Akifumi simply smiled and observed from the sidelines. Machida coughed. Now, don't be so dramatic, she said, motioning for them to follow her inside. Come on, let's head up. Once inside the company's guest lounge, Machida asked, what would you like to drink? Coffee. Utaha answered. Just water for me. Akifumi replied. Machida chuckled. You really are health conscious, Akifumi-sensei. You always just get water when you come here. At this, Utaha shot Akifumi a curious glance. He merely offered a reserved smile in response. Sensing the shift in atmosphere, Utaha suddenly stood up. I have something to take care of, I'll step out for a bit. Of course, she didn't actually have anything urgent to do. She was just giving them space. However, if it's about why you called me here today, I think I already have an idea. Akifumi said casually. It's nothing major, so there's no need for senpai to leave. TCH. Clicking her tongue in mild annoyance at her failed escape, Machida sighed before nodding. Yeah, it's not anything serious. Since Akifumi-sensei is fine with it, why don't you stay and listen to Shi-chan? Utaha hesitated. As a normal person, of course she was curious. But more than that, she knew how to be tactful. Still, since they had both invited her to stay, she didn't insist on leaving. Settling down in a seat, she watched them expectantly. Machida sighed dramatically. Akifumi-sensei, why is the light novel division so much slower compared to the other departments? Since this was an internal company matter, Akifumi wasn't about to comment recklessly. He simply responded with an awkward yet polite smile. Machida exhaled before sliding a document across the table. This is an updated contract addendum. It's still the same as the one you signed before. Take a look. Thanks. When it came to contracts, no matter how good a relationship was, one had to be cautious. Utaha blinked in confusion. Sure, she was happy to be included, but could he not be so vague with their conversation? What the heck were they even talking about? She might as well not have been listening at all. Damn cryptic business talk. As Utaha silently ground her teeth in frustration, Akifumi carefully reviewed the document. Aside from the company name, Everything was identical to the previous contract. Without hesitation, he signed his name and handed it back. Thank you for your help, Machida-san. Well, it's really thanks to your outstanding work. Otherwise, the hire wouldn't even think to publishing it overseas. Oh. So that's what this was about, overseas distribution. Wait, overseas distribution? Feeling two sets of eyes suddenly on her, Utaha's face flushed. She quickly stammered, sorry. Just pretend I'm not here. Please, continue. But despite her words, her eyes gleamed with barely concealed envy. Akifumi chuckled. I'm sure Senpai's work will reach that level someday too. Exactly. Machida chimed in. No need to be jealous, Shi-chan. This guy's just lucky enough to have a head start. If you stay focused, you'll surpass him in no time. Wow, so now I'm just a stepping stone? Akifumi chuckled to himself but didn't take offense. After all, his update schedule could be summed up in 2 words, pure chaos. He just wrote whatever, whenever. There was even a chance he'd stop writing light novels altogether. So technically, Machida wasn't wrong. With business wrapped up, Akifumi prepared to leave. If there's nothing else, I'll be before he could finish, Utaha suddenly cut in. Akifumi-kun startled by her intensity, Akifumi turned to her questioningly. Taking a deep breath, Utaha met his gaze with utmost seriousness. For my new manuscript. I'd like you to read it. Akifumi blinked in surprise before breaking into a smile. If that's the case, then I'd be happy too. But wouldn't that go against company policy? Machida shook her head. Akifumi-sensei is part of the company too. It's no big deal. With that reassurance, Akifumi nodded. Then, I'll be in your care, senpai. Machida glanced between the two and sighed internally. This too really is a mess. Chapter 215, Kazekage. Utaha reached into her back and pulled out a neatly prepared manuscript. After a brief moment of hesitation, she spoke up somewhat sheepishly, Machida-san, could you help me make a copy of this? Oh? So now it's Machida-san when you need a favor, but when you don't, it's just that old hag. No problem. Machida Sanoko took the manuscript, flashed an apologetic smile at Akifumi, and then left the room. With her departure, an odd silence filled the air, tinged with an inexplicable awkwardness. Akifumi-kun. Utaha was the first to break the silence. Akifumi turned to her, puzzled. Are you aware of the biggest event currently trending in the industry? The biggest event? Akifumi blinked in confusion. His online activities were almost entirely limited to gaming, with little to no attention paid to industry news. Other than the initial research he did when first stepping into this field, he hadn't kept up with any recent developments. Seeing his reaction, Utaha let out a sigh, her expression practically screaming, I knew it. Akifumi scratched his head. Did I do something wrong? Not really. Utaha shook her head, though her face carried a hint of exasperation. It's just that. You really don't seem like someone from the industry. I mean, you even managed to overlook such a major event. Why does everyone insist on speaking in riddles? Can't they just get to the point already? Whether she had read his mind or simply decided to stop teasing, Kazekage finally explained, I'm talking about the story creation contest. You've at least heard of that, right? Akifumi furrowed his brows, sifting through his memories. A moment later, realization dawned on his face. The story creation contest held once every 4 years. It revolves around storytelling, with participants crafting narratives based on a given theme. And that theme? It varied widely. The contest placed no restrictions on genre, whether it was anime-inspired, a drama-style screenplay, or even the main storyline of a game. As long as it fit the theme, it was fair game. Because of this incredible diversity, the contest had always enjoyed massive popularity, drawing countless fans every time it was held. Not to mention the lucrative rewards. Even well-established creators found it hard to resist participating. 4 years ago, back when he was just a middle schooler, Akifumi had been obsessed with the contest. He had followed it religiously whenever he had the chance. Many of the best stories born from the competition were later developed into full-fledged works, thanks to investments from major companies. However, while some adaptations lived up to expectations, many ended up being huge disappointments. At the time, he hadn't fully understood why. But now, he knew all too well. The main issue lay in the contest's structure. Participants weren't expected to produce a fully fleshed-out work. Given the time constraints, it was impossible to craft a complete story from start to finish. Instead, contestants had to focus on presenting an engaging, well-structured concept. To showcase their ideas in the most compelling way possible, many included their most exciting scenes, highlighted key characters, added memorable dialogue, and incorporated striking visuals. Because of this approach, while the overall story might not always be top tier, The fragments shown to the audience were carefully curated to be extremely captivating. Beyond that, the heavy involvement of corporate interests was another major factor in why adaptations often fell short. Once investors stepped in, the story's direction could easily be altered, diverging significantly from the creator's original vision. As he recalled all this information, Akifumi finally spoke. So, the story creation contest is happening again? Hearing the hint of surprise in his voice, Utaha couldn't help but smile. Now that's the reaction of a true industry professional. After all, with the prestige and rewards at stake, no passionate storyteller could afford to ignore this event. That's right. Utaha nodded. The preliminary theme this year is life. And the deadline is the end of June. The top 128 entries will be announced in mid-July, followed by elimination rounds from 64 to 32, then 16 to 8, and finally the Grand Championship round. The theme is life? Well, that's quite the coincidence. Thinking about the project he was currently working on, Akifumi felt a strange sense of irony. Akifumi-kun, are you planning to participate? Utaha's gaze burned with anticipation. If it's you, I have no doubt you'll achieve great results. Her expression was that of an unabashed fangirl. Akifumi let out a small chuckle. I had no idea you had such high expectations of me, senpai. But since this is a themed contest, I can't say I'm too confident. Hearing this, Utaha nodded thoughtfully. That's true. The biggest challenge of a themed contest was aligning with the assigned topic. Even if Akifumi submitted masterpieces like Well or Meiji Madoka Magica or Stein's Gate, they would still be rejected if they didn't fit the theme. The contest's unpredictability was what made it so intriguing. But judging from your tone, Akifumi-kun, it sounds like you're going to enter? Akifumi smiled. When an opportunity this interesting comes up, how could I possibly miss it? This wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was a carefully considered one. His serialized works, World End and Your Lie in April, were still running in magazines, while Akam ga Kill was already published as a standalone volume. Given this workload, launching another full-length manga series anytime soon was unrealistic. But this contest? It presented a unique opportunity. By participating, he could boost his popularity and expand his fan base. A higher profile meant increased sales for his existing works. And if his new contest piece turned out to be a hit, demand from fans could potentially fast-track its adaptation. Even setting all of that aside, the grand prize alone was worth hundreds of millions of yen. Winning would cement his industry status, allowing him to negotiate better publishing terms. With so many benefits, why would he ever pass up this chance? Sure, the competition would be tough, but that was what made it exciting. After all, isn't that what storytelling is all about? Chapter 216, TCH. Am I interrupting your little moment here? The door swung open from the outside, revealing Machida Sanoko, who clicked her tongue in annoyance. She glanced at the two, who had somehow gotten closer than when she had left the room. The displeasure on her face likely stemmed from memories of her own youth being stirred by the scene before her. Cough, cough. Kazekage Utaha choked on her coffee, caught off guard. For a guy, moments like these were usually a win, but unnecessary misunderstandings were best avoided. Akifumi chuckled and clarified, "You're mistaken. We were just discussing the upcoming story creation contest." Oh, that. Machida's eyes lit up in realization, then she smiled. Come to think of it, our company is actually one of the sponsors. Seriously? Yes, but as a sponsor, we have no involvement in the competition's proceedings or theme selection. So if you were hoping to gather some insider information, Akifumi-sensei, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. Akifumi rolled his eyes. Do I look like that kind of person? My apologies. Machida said with a sheepish smile. I just couldn't help but recall some past experiences, which made me react a bit strongly. Hearing about the contest brought back memories of 4 years ago, before she became an editor-in-chief. Back then, several authors she managed participated in the event. Once they learned she had no insider information to offer, they switched to another publishing house within a month or two. That was when she decided to stop treating every author under her care equally. Shaking off those thoughts, Machida grinned. If you're planning to participate, Akifumi-sensei, this year's contest is bound to be exciting. Akifumi rolled his eyes again. You're overestimating me. Overestimating? Considering that he had created works like Madoka Magica, World End, Stein's Gate, Anohana, and Your Lie in April, there was no way that was an overstatement. In fact, any of those stories could have easily won the championship if they matched the contest's theme. But rather than pressing the point, Machida simply shook her head and changed the subject. Alright, enough small talk. She handed over a manuscript. Here's Shi-chan's draft, Akifumi-sensei. Then I won't hold back. Okifumi took the manuscript and immediately began reading. Seeing this, Machida also found a seat and started reviewing her own copy. Meanwhile, Utaha, who had been nonchalant moments ago, suddenly tensed up. Her fingers unconsciously clenched the hem of her skirt under the table. With every turn of the page, time had never felt this agonizingly slow. An hour later. Okifumi let out a satisfied sigh as he set the manuscript down. Machida followed suit almost simultaneously. Well? Utaha asked anxiously. Okifumi glanced at Machida, clearly signaling that this was the editor's role to judge, not his as an outsider. It's amazing. I'd even call it perfect. Machida said, giving Utaha a thumbs up. You can publish it any time. Phew. Hearing such affirmation, Utaha finally relaxed. Her tense expression softened, and her whole body unwound. But what does Okifumi-kun think? She asked expectantly. What kind of response would he give? Would he recognize her effort? In this moment, Utaha was like a girl yearning for her idol's approval. It's absolutely captivating. As a reader, I couldn't help but be completely immersed in it. Okifumi said with a smile. As expected of senpai, even I'm not confident I could surpass this. Utaha's face lit up with joy, but she quickly pouted and shot him a playful glare. You're just trying to flatter me. Flattery? That's not something I do. As a writer, I'm fully aware of the gap between my work and world end. She admitted. Okifumi shook his head. Different genres have their own fitting styles. If your novel had the same tragic tone as World End, that would be downright terrifying, wouldn't it? This novel, which focuses on heartwarming romance, is undoubtedly an outstanding work in its genre. Even I have a lot to learn from it. At the very least, the first volume is at that level. At some point, a faint blush had appeared on Utaha's cheeks. Avoiding his gaze, she shyly muttered, I see. Sorry for misjudging you earlier. Okifumi simply smiled. It's fine. TCH. Machida frowned. How did a manuscript review turn into a romantic scene? This sickeningly sweet atmosphere. The stench of romance is unbearable. Still, as someone committed to being a supporting character, she delivered the perfect assist. Just as Okifumi-sensei said, there's no doubt about the quality of this work. So, Shi-chan, you should have more confidence in yourself. Understood. Utaha nodded seriously, then looked at them with gratitude. Thank you both so much. Machida rolled her eyes. I am your editor. This is my job, you know. Okifumi waved dismissively. I didn't do much. Just shared my thoughts after reading it. If anything, I should be the one thanking you two for letting me experience such a great story. Saying that, Okifumi checked his phone. 11:28 a.m. With an apologetic smile, he said, it's already this late. If there's nothing else, I should be heading out. Oh? How about lunch together? Machida suggested. Utaha also looked at him expectantly. I already told my family I'd be home for lunch. They're probably almost done preparing it. Okifumi smiled apologetically. To make it up to you both, how about I treat you next time? I'll be looking forward to a feast then. Machida grinned playfully. Utaha smiled as well. Then, I'll be eagerly awaiting your invitation, Okifumi-kun. Chapter 217, Returning home took a bit longer than expected. After finishing lunch, Okifumi went straight to his room, opened the official website for the story creation contest, and reviewed the competition rules from previous years. The main rules remained unchanged, with only minor clarifications in certain areas. For Okifumi, these details were insignificant. As for the grand prize of 1 million yen, that was just a trivial bonus. Okifumi wasn't in this for money. As a creator, his sole motivation was to bring stories to life and share them with the world. Rewards were secondary. Closing the website, he opened a blank document on his computer and fell into deep thought. Unlike his usual creative process, this contest required contestants to write a script based on a given theme. In contrast, his past works were either direct adaptations of vivid memories or stories constructed from visualized scenes in his mind. But script writing was different. The setting, character profiles, and fundamental world building needed to be explicitly outlined before expanding into detailed storylines. The key was to weave intricate, interconnected narrative threads that bound characters and events together, the backbone of the story itself. This wasn't something he could just dive into and start writing episodically. If he presented a fully fleshed out script from the get-go, it would raise eyebrows. People would suspect insider leaks or even foul play. At worst, he might end up dissected in a lab somewhere. Though the preliminary round allowed ample time for contestants to flesh out their scripts, later stages would impose strict deadlines. Once he reached the top 128, he would have to write scripts based on assigned prompts within limited timeframes. He couldn't afford to rely on his usual approach. He needed to adapt. Thus, this preliminary round was not just a challenge but also a valuable opportunity, a chance to refine his method, summarize his ideas, and familiarize himself with script writing. The contest's preliminary theme was life. A broad topic, offering countless possibilities. For many, selecting the right angle would be a struggle. But Akifumi already had a perfect story in mind, one that resonated deeply with the theme. All that remained was to present it in a way he had never attempted before. Where should I start? Akifumi mused. Should he begin with character profiles and their individual backstories? With nearly a dozen major characters, that would be a headache. I'll start with the setting instead. With that decision made, he typed 2 words onto the blank document: light orbs. This concept was the heart of his story. Light orbs, also known as the light of wishes, are manifestations of people's desires in another realm. Those with love in their hearts can see these orbs. By spreading love and fulfilling the wishes of others, one can obtain light orbs. In turn, these orbs grant miracles to those who possess love. Once upon a time, everyone in this town believed in this legend. After writing this, he paused, then added another crucial world-building element: the illusionary world, a realm coexisting with reality in a mysterious way. It is not a physically tangible world but one that exists on a conceptual level, a manifestation of the town's very will. As the town thrives, so does this world. As the town declines, so does the illusionary world. It prospers through happiness and withers through sorrow. These 2 elements intertwine to form the core of the story. With the foundation set, his thoughts became clearer. Next, he moved on to the story's central character. Protagonist, placeholder name, character A, born frail and sickly, she fell gravely ill at the age of 5. She was on the brink of death due to her illness. What saved her? Akifumi pondered. Who would be the person most desperate to keep her alive? Aside from the suffering girl herself, her parents would undoubtedly bear the greatest pain. While the mother devoted herself to caregiving, the father, with more freedom, sought a solution. Protagonist's father, placeholder name, character B, in desperation, he went to a legendary place in town to pray. By chance, a passing light orb heard his wish and granted his daughter a miracle. From that moment on, the girl's fate became intertwined with the town itself. She became a bridge between the illusionary world and reality. She survived because of the town's existence. If the town were ever to decline, she too could be drained of her life force. Now, the protagonist needs a name. Though he had always known it in his heart, officially deciding on a name made it feel more real. Name, Furukawa. He smiled. Even though all of this was deeply embedded in his memory, he needed to write it out formally. After all, this was a script, and scripts needed to be structured with logical reasoning. Of course, not everything he wrote would be included in the final draft. This meticulous detailing was merely a preparation step for the later competition rounds. To fool others, he had to first fool himself. Success may come in the short term, but with such a fragile foundation, disaster is inevitable. Clashing elements of water and fire create an unstable fate. It may bring unexpected misfortune, leading to loss of wealth or even life. A destiny plagued by uncertainty and danger. Akifumi leaned back, staring at the screen. This was just the beginning. Chapter 218, time flows on, and the scenery outside the window shifts from bright daylight to the darkness of night. After dinner, the once empty document on Akifumi's screen was now filled with dense text. However, the main storyline had yet to begin. It wasn't that he had been slacking off. Instead, he had been meticulously crafting character settings, backstories, and the structure of key plot lines, especially the most crucial aspect of the entire narrative, the 13 glowing orbs that connected the entire story. Since his script was based on the Clannad anime rather than the original game, the reason was simple: workload. Just thinking about it made his scalp tingle. The game itself had an extensive narrative, requiring players to spend over 100 hours to achieve full completion. If he were to adapt it in its entirety, the sheer amount of work would be overwhelming. Even if he had the luxury of copying everything verbatim, he wouldn't want to. After all, he didn't have a full development team at his disposal. A small-scale game like The Witch's House could be developed solo without much trouble. But a visual novel like Clannad? That was a completely different beast. In the game version of Clannad, there were 14 light orbs. However, one was consumed when Hueco made her wish, triggering the orb disappearance event. If this event occurred, only 7 orbs were needed to unlock the after-story arc. Without experiencing Hueco's wish, 8 orbs would be required. Due to time constraints, the anime adaptation simplified this. Even without Hueco's event, the after-story still began with just 7 light orbs. These 13 orbs were the core of the story, and only by collecting all of them could one reach the true ending. In the final moments of the tale, the illusionary world collapses. It is because of these 13 light orbs that time is rewound, taking us back to the moment 5 years prior Nagiza Furukawa's childbirth. With the orbs replacing her fate, she no longer suffers a tragic death during labor. Phew. Looking at the text he had painstakingly structured throughout the day, Akifumi let out a deep sigh. I didn't think writing this would be this difficult. Characterization, for instance, wasn't something that could simply be described in text. Instead, it had to be subtly revealed through the story itself. Take the protagonist, Tomoya Okazaki, for example. Many people, after watching Clannad, came away with the impression that his father was indifferent and neglectful. But this was an oversimplification. In truth, after Tomoya's mother passed away, his father lost the will to live, and Tomoya became his sole reason for moving forward. However, as Tomoya grew older and gained independence, his father, having lost his purpose, fell into despair. This was explored in depth in Clannad, after story. Jumping to conclusions based only on the first half of the story could easily lead to misunderstandings. To ensure accuracy, Akifumi had to cross-reference scenes, analyze subtle details, and rewrite sections repeatedly. Many character traits were only hinted at indirectly, requiring careful interpretation to put them into words. Despite these challenges, he had managed to make significant progress, proof of his dedication. Would this work pass the initial selection? He had no doubt. After all, this was Clannad, a story that wasn't just written, but lived. The phrase writing Clannad, reading life might sound a bit dramatic, but to earn such praise was a testament to the story's depth and impact. Alright, that's enough for today. Although he wasn't particularly tired yet, it was already past 11 p.m. Since it was a rare day off, there was no need to push himself too hard. It wasn't a project that could be finished in a single day. He could take his time. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Meanwhile, the second volume of Akame ga Kill had been released to positive reviews. The protagonist had joined Night Raid and embarked on a new mission. Though the journey was dangerous, he ultimately made it through unscathed, gaining valuable experience along the way. However, fans were surprised by one particular change. The protagonist's partner had been switched to Shield. Wait. So Akame isn't the main character? That thought crossed many readers' minds, only to be quickly dismissed. After all, the title was Akame ga Kill. If Akame wasn't the lead, then who was? Besides, the new character design was visually appealing, so fans decided to overlook the minor inconsistency. Little did they know, Akifumi was merely setting them up for an emotional gut punch. 1 volume per month is not enough. Come on, you're only working on World End and this. Pick up the pace. Are you dragging it out on purpose? Do you think I can't afford to buy more volumes? Hurry up and release the next one. Seeing these passionate complaints in the comments, Akifumi chuckled. I hope you guys still feel the same way next month. Yes, he was planning to hit them with some devastating plot twists. But this time, he wasn't going to follow the original script exactly. One of the biggest criticisms of Akame ga Kill was how characters seemed to die purely for shock value. At first, Night Raid was introduced as an elite group with formidable abilities. But then, an Imperial Guard member, a relatively minor character, managed to take out one of them in a 2-on-1 fight? It just didn't make sense. The problem wasn't the death itself, but the lack of proper build-up. Take One Piece, for example. From his very first appearance, Garp was established as an absolute powerhouse. Yet in the later arcs, he was defeated far too easily. If the scene had shown Garp being ganged up on by the entire Blackbeard group, taking down several opponents before finally falling, fans wouldn't have had an issue. Because no matter how strong he was still just one man. That's logical storytelling. Similarly, if the Akame ga Kill scene had given Sarah more backstory and established her as a worthy adversary, then Shield's death in a 2-on-1 battle would have felt justified. As a creator, adding depth and foreshadowing was just basic craftsmanship. Why the original author didn't think this through? Well, only they would know. Just like how no one can fully understand why Oda is handling One Piece's final arcs the way he is now. Chapter 219, Alright, I'm going now. I almost finished here, just wait for me for a bit. Akifumi sighed, a hint of helplessness on his face as he hung up the phone call from Mariri. This time, it's taking unusually long. Muttering to himself, he quickly brushed off the thought. Mariri and Miharu had only started acting strange last year. They'd been through countless situations over the years without trouble. Surely, this wouldn't be any different. With their level of caution, it wasn't his place to worry about them. Rather than waste time overthinking, it was better to finish up the task at hand. His eyes flicked back to the screen. He meticulously checked the packed file 3 more times. Once he was sure everything was in order, he took a deep breath and clicked the send button. Damn it, I've been in this industry for a year now. I should be a veteran at this point. So why do I still feel this weird nervousness? Akifumi chuckled at himself, shaking off the unease. Although he had written scripts before, This was the first time he was submitting one for a competition. It was like reliving the moment he first submitted a manuscript to Shueisha a year ago. Even though he knew his work was good, he couldn't help but feel anxious. But with 128 available spots, surely his writing wasn't bad enough to miss out on all of them, right? With that thought, he finally managed to relax. Still, he wasn't going to spend the entire day working. Today was a special occasion. After all, it had been 18 years since he arrived in this world. Time sure flies. A hint of nostalgia flashed in his eyes as he changed into casual clothes for going out. Even if he wanted to stay home, the girls wouldn't allow it, not on a day like this. They even said they had a surprise planned. I wonder what it is. Recalling how Miharu and Dariri blushed and averted their eyes a few days ago, Akifumi had a strange feeling about it. His anticipation grew. Meanwhile, somewhere else. What a waste of a weekend. Tanaka sighed as he fiddled with his phone, bored out of his mind. His thoughts drifted back to 2, 3, even 4 months ago. Sure, his wallet had been suffering back then, so much so that he had to work several part-time jobs just to stay afloat. But those were still enjoyable times. Now, his favorite mangaka was only releasing 1 volume per month. The painfully slow pace made him scoff. And to think we trusted you, you damn bastard. How did your updates become so short and weak all of a sudden? Readers were like men, always falling for the next pretty girl they saw. But for other mangaka were even worse, only releasing 1 chapter a week. It was like they were scraping words out from between their teeth. After getting used to Akifumi's feast-like releases several volumes at once, how could he go back to nibbling on breadcrumbs? It's not even enough to make me take my pants off. Suddenly, a message popped up in the Love and Hope Enthusiasts chat group. Damn. Sensei is stirring up trouble again. Tanaka's eyes sharpened. At the sight of the word stirring up trouble. He didn't feel fear, he felt excitement. Everyone knew that if a celebrity got involved in trouble, they were probably doomed. But if it was the old thief? There were only 3 possibilities: new work, new work, new work. His heart pounded, his hands trembled. Rather than rely on hearsay, he had to see it with his own eyes. But nothing? Tanaka blinked in confusion at his screen. The SNS account Warrior of Love and Hope still had its latest post from late May, the one promoting Acom. Everyone knew that whenever the old thief stirred up trouble, he would post about it. No updates meant one thing: he wasn't stirring up anything. Tanaka's anger skyrocketed. His weekend was already miserable, and now some liar was messing with him? Unacceptable. Back in the chat, more messages flooded in. No update, and you say Sensei is up to something? Do you think lying about this is funny? Admin, I suggest kicking this guy out. Tanaka's fury cooled down at the sight of the mob's reaction. Glad to see everyone's on the same page. Still, it wouldn't feel right if he didn't join in. Just as he was about to send his own elegant and refined criticism, the so-called liar sent another message. Attached was a screenshot. Below it was a caption. Screenshot, title, Clannad. Author, Warrior of Love and Hope. Guys, I swear I'm not making this up. Just look at the author's name. With how famous the old thief is, who else would dare impersonate him? Could it be? Tanaka was stunned. Without hesitation, he deleted the message he had been typing and immediately sent a new one. Where did you see this? When? The chat exploded. Did I wake up too fast? Is this real? Unforgivable. Sensei, how dare you keep this from us? Link. Now. Don't make me beg. Admin has enabled slow mode. Admin, calm down, everyone. You're spamming too fast. Let the guy speak. Now that I've silenced everyone, tell us everything. A minute passed. Admin? Where did he go? Damn it, say something already. I can't take this anymore. I'm about to shave my head right here. Another minute passed. Admin, big bro, please. Just tell us. I was too loud earlier, I'm sorry. Forgive me, I beg you. Tanaka stared at the messages, frustration building. Everyone was desperate for information, which was understandable. But at least unmute him first, you idiot admin. Chapter 220, a few minutes later. The group admin has lifted the mute. Admin, ahem, my bad, my bad. If an apology was enough, we wouldn't need the police. All that wasted time. How are we supposed to? Mute warning.jpg. No worries, no worries. Mistakes happen. Totally understandable. Brother, are you still there? We need answers. Urgently. Faced with the oppressive tyranny of the admin, the group members all played along, pretending nothing had happened. And after all the summoning and pleading, the guy who started it all finally responded. Go to the Story Creation Contest official website and search for entry number 60,285. Thanks for the tip, legend. as expected of the notorious sensei, always stirring things up. He slipped away unnoticed and joined a whole new competition. Wait. What even is the story creation contest? Seriously? Do you not have the internet? Go look it up. Even if it's just a script and not a final product, given the sensei's storytelling skills, it's bound to be another masterpiece. I just hope this story has a happy ending. Unlike Stein's Gate. One by one, the fans in the group shared their thoughts and then promptly disappeared. No need to ask where they went. As for Tanaka, the moment he saw the contest entry number, he immediately closed the chat. No hesitation, no second thoughts. Of course, he knew about the story creation contest. Held once every 4 years, it was a massive event, full of hype. The extravagant prize pool drew attention from both inside and outside the industry. For professionals, it was a golden opportunity to earn fame and fortune. For the audience, it was a chance to witness groundbreaking stories and see which lucky soul would claim the grand prize. On top of that, the TV show based on the contest was a ratings juggernaut, always topping the charts the year it aired. Then again, the fact that it only aired every 4 years played a big role in that. Even the most delicious food would get boring if you ate it every day. But if you had to wait years between bites, you'd crave it like crazy. As for the other reasons behind its success, Tanaka wasn't an industry expert, so he couldn't say. All he knew was that he loved the show. That was enough. Since the contest attracted countless submissions, and most were amateur entries made for fun, the overall quality varied wildly. That's why Tanaka never paid much attention before. Some people enjoy sifting through a sea of average works to find hidden gems. Others prefer to dive straight into the main event. Tanaka was the latter. Besides, as a student, he didn't have the luxury of time to waste on filtering through entries. Back to the point. Following the instructions from the group, he quickly found the entry titled Claned. After confirming the author's name, Tanaka couldn't help but grumble, "Sensei. Pulling stunts like this without telling us? Do you have any idea how long we've been suffering, waiting for your updates? So what if it's just a script? Do you doubt our loyalty?" Despite his complaints, Tanaka had no intention of spreading the word. Instead, he clicked on the story immediately. Tomoya Okazaki, protagonist, attends a private high school. A delinquent. Lost his mother in an accident at a young age and now lives with his father. Nagisa Furukawa, heroine. Fell seriously ill at 5 and nearly died. Weak constitution. A year older than the protagonist but had to repeat a grade. Meets Tomoya under the falling cherry blossoms. The moment Tanaka saw the word serious illness, his forehead twitched. A blonde girl immediately came to mind. Once again, a terminal illness subplot. Just like Your Lie in April? Tanaka's head started throbbing. No way. Not again? He grimaced at the screen. Sure, Your Lie in April was an incredible story. Kausai was saved by Corey's influence, but in the end, she still just thinking about it filled him with overwhelming regret. The contest's theme is life. So it's not impossible for it to follow a similar pattern. The notorious sensei's works always took different approaches, but that didn't mean he wouldn't reuse a heartbreaking formula someday. As a devoted fan, Tanaka was rational and mentally prepared. Well, let's just read it first. With that thought, he kept going. Kotomi Akino's, Tomoya's childhood friend. A genius girl. Lost both parents at a young age. Fuko Ibuki, a first-year student who spends all her time carving wooden starfish in the art room. Eccentric. Loves daydreaming about her wild fantasies. Awkward in social situations. Tomoyo Sakagami, a former delinquent. Insanely strong in fights. So powerful, people call her the martial emperor. Kyawa Fujibayashi. By the time he finished reading through 10 detailed character profiles, Tanaka rubbed his temples. This time, Sensei is going all in. He wasn't an expert, but after reading so many stories over the years, he had a good sense of things. So many characters. Such intricate backstories. With this author's style, there was no way these were just filler characters meant to show up for a few brief scenes and disappear. If they had such detailed setups, they were bound to have their own deeply intertwined arcs within the main story. Just imagining the amount of work required to weave all these stories together made Tanaka's scalp tingle. But more importantly, for a preliminary round, this is total overkill. Looking at the corresponding character illustrations, Tanaka let out a sigh. Sure, plenty of writers could create a perfect character profile. But how many could also draw their own characters? Just that alone put this entry on a whole different level from 99% of the competition. Seeing these well-crafted character designs, Tanaka's curiosity skyrocketed. He couldn't wait to see what kind of story the notorious sensei would craft for this tale called life. Chapter 221, On a spring day, as cherry blossoms drift through the air, Delinquent high school student Tomoya Okazaki meets a girl named Nagisa Furukawa on his usual walk up the school hill. As they talk, Tomoya gradually learns more about Nagisa, how she had to repeat a year due to illness and now feels uneasy about her new school environment. Meanwhile, Nagisa, who dreams of joining the drama club, is devastated to find that the club had been disbanded long ago. Seeing her disappointment, Tomoya decides to help her revive the drama club. Accompanying the outline were a few black and white illustrations. In the first image, a lone boy walked along an empty slope. Next to him, lines of monologue were written: "I hate this town. Because it holds nothing but memories I want to forget. Every day, I go to school, chat idly with my friends, then return to a home I don't want to be in. Day after day. Will my life ever change? When will something finally be different?" Just a few simple lines, yet they evoked a deep sense of melancholy. Recalling the protagonist's backstory, Tanaka immediately understood why he would think this way. The scene shifted. "Do you like this school?" "I love it very much. But nothing lasts forever." A girl, wearing the same school uniform as Tomoya yet completely unfamiliar to him, stood still about 200 meters away from the school. In the illustration, Tomoya looked at her in surprise, his thoughts written beside him. "She's not talking to me." In the next panel, the girl gazed at the sky, her thoughts drifting elsewhere. No matter how joyful or happy something is, it will never last forever. Even knowing that, do you still love this place? Tomoya knew she wasn't speaking to him. But then just go and find more of it. The words escaped his lips before he even realized it. Startled by the sudden voice, the girl's eyes welled with tears. Her shoulder-length hair swayed gently in the wind as she turned to look at him in surprise. Unfazed, Tomoya continued, "More happiness, more joy, just go and find them." The girl remained frozen, as if she still hadn't processed this unexpected conversation. "Come on, let's go." With those words, Tomoya took the lead, walking ahead. The girl, still wearing that bewildered expression, hesitantly followed behind him. The final caption read, "Everyone has experienced those naive and clueless days. Together, we begin climbing this long hill." After reading this, Tanaka couldn't hold back his frustration. This outline is way too brief. Without the illustrations, the first chapter's summary wouldn't have captured even a fraction of the story's charm. If someone had told him this was supposed to be a warrior of love and hope sensei type of story, he would have taken it as an insult. But just from a few pages of artwork, Tanaka could already feel the depth of this tale. So, yeah, outlines are just references. Seriously, who actually enjoys reading outlines? The preliminary round has plenty of time, so why not just write out the full chapter scripts? Even though the added manga panels were a plus, not including full chapter breakdowns was definitely a huge drawback. And if other contestants were also relying solely on outlines, well, none of them were warrior of love and hope sensei. As a well-known manga artist, light novel author, anime screenwriter, and game developer, this guy had higher expectations from his fans. Wasn't that only natural? With those thoughts swirling in his mind, Tanaka continued reading. "Kodami, this world is beautiful. Even if it's filled with sadness and tears, open your eyes. Do what you want to do. Become who you want to be. Love who you want to love. Find the friends you seek. Don't rush, don't be lost. Take your time growing up. No matter what happens, never regret meeting this world. Akio, we never gave up on our dreams. A child's dream is also their parents' dream. Now, Nagisa, it's your turn to make our dream come true. With the birth of a new life, another life comes to an end. Ashio, Sani said you can't cry in front of others. The only places you can cry are in the bathroom or in daddy's arms. A dimly lit living room. A messy floor. A static radio playing incomprehensible sounds. A drunken Naoki Okazaki slumped over. A series of hazy, yellow-tinted memories, blurry yet painfully real. Hey, Dad. You're tired, aren't you? Maybe. It's time to rest. Have I finally finished? Has my mission finally come to an end? One scene after another unfolded before Tanaka's eyes, making his tears flow uncontrollably. From Tomoya's high school days, to his graduation and work, to marriage and starting a family. Nagisa died during childbirth, leaving behind their daughter, Ashio. Tomoya, drowning in grief, spent 5 years in despair before finally taking Ashio on a trip, just the two of them. It was then he realized his mistakes, understood his father's struggles, and finally grasped the weight of being a parent. Determined to raise Ashio properly, Tomoya made his resolve. But then, he discovered Ashio was sick. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. On one of her frequent requests for a trip, Tomoya finally agreed. Yet, in that heavy snowfall, Ashio reached the end of her journey before they could even finish walking down that long road together. Scene after scene played out, pulling at Tanaka's heartstrings until his tears wouldn't stop. A person's life is a series of arrivals, encounters, companionships, and farewells. Chapter 222. The sun was setting over Tokyo, casting a warm golden glow over the bustling streets. Akifumi adjusted his scarf as he stood outside Shibuya Crossing. While Akifumi account is under fire full of people complaining about his latest work, Akifumi was now on the way going on a date. He glanced at his watch 12:02 p.m. In the distance, he spotted Miharu and Ariri already waiting for him. Mujio-kun. A soft, melodic voice called out. He turned to see Miharu approaching, her blonde hair shimmering under the sunlight. She wore a simple yet white dress that hugged her figure perfectly, her usual serene smile gracing her lips. "You're late," she said, her tone teasing but gentle. Before he could respond, another voice chimed in sharp and full of energy. "Mujio. You've got making girls wait for you, huh?" Ariri strutted up, her blonde twin tails swaying with each step. She was dressed in a stylish outfit that perfectly blended her British heritage with Japanese street fashion: a plaid skirt, a blue jacket. Her hands rested on her hips, her trademark pouting face plastered across her face. Akifumi scratched the back of his head, laughing nervously. Sorry, the train was packed, and I got stuck behind a group blocking the way, so I had to take another route." Miharu giggled softly, her eyes crinkling with amusement. "It's okay, Mujio-kun. We're just happy you're here." Akifumi felt his cheeks warm. Even after all this time, Miharu's kindness never failed to put him at ease. "Thanks, Miharu. You look beautiful in that dress." "Is that so?" "Thank you, Mujio-kun." Miharu smiled happily at his compliment. Ariri snorted. "Don't forget about me. I'm the one who planned this whole date, you know." Miharu stepped between them, raising her hands. Now, let's not fight. We're here to celebrate Akifumi-kun's birthday, remember?" Akifumi grinned. "Right. So, what's the plan, Ariri?" She crossed her arms, her smirk returning. "Well, first, we're hitting that new crepe place everyone's been talking about. Then, we'll figure out the rest later." Akifumi chuckled. "After all that confidence, you still don't have a full plan, huh?" Ariri groaned. Shut up. Come on, Miharu, let's go, we've got a whole day to enjoy." "Wait, Ariri." Miharu called, her eyes widening as she hesitated, torn between Ariri's playful energy and her own fondness for Akifumi. Seeing the silent plea in Miharu's eyes, Akifumi sighed and followed them. The soft hum of conversation filled the cozy crepe cafe nestled in a quiet corner of Tokyo. Sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting a warm glow over the wooden tables and pastel-colored decor. Outside, the gentle bustle of the city continued, but within the cafe, time seemed to slow down. Sitting at a small round table near the window were three individuals: Akifumi, Shina Miharu, and Sawamura Spencer Ariri. Each wore different expressions as they faced a delicate array of freshly made crepes arranged elegantly on porcelain plates. Akifumi leaned back slightly, a teasing smile tugging at his lips. "To think you'd know a place like this," he said, glancing at Ariri. "You're the one who picked this spot, weren't you?" "Of course." Ariri huffed, flipping one of her blonde twin tails over her shoulder. "This cafe is well known among creators. This place also had once adapted an anime movie before. The ambience is perfect, and the food is excellent. You should be thanking me." "Oh? Is that so?" Akifumi leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand. "Or maybe you just wanted an excuse to gather references for your jinshai?" Ariri's face immediately flushed red. I just thought it would be a nice change of pace." Akifumi chuckled. Right. Whatever you say, egoistic Lily-san." Shut up." Ariri grumbled, stabbing at her crepe with unnecessary force. Miharu, who had been silently observing their exchange, let out a small sigh. "You shouldn't tease her so much, Mujio-kun." Akifumi turned to Miharu, his smile widening. "But it's so much fun. Don't you think she looks cute when she's flustered?" Miharu blinked, a faint blush dusting her cheeks. "That's beside the point." Ariri, still recovering from embarrassment, muttered under her breath before attacking her crepe again. "Ugh." In contrast, Miharu had already begun eating with her characteristic grace, her delicate hands carefully holding a slice of her chocolate-drizzled crepe. She took small, measured bites, maintaining her elegant composure. "So, what do you think?" Akifumi asked, turning to Miharu. "Good, right?" She nodded without hesitation. "Yes. The balance between the cream and fruit is perfect." Akifumi smiled. "See, Ariri? You made an excellent choice." Ariri rolled her eyes. I never said the food was bad. It's just, I feel like people are staring. She wasn't entirely wrong. The trio did attract attention. Okifumi, as a well-known mangaka since his signing event, couldn't easily blend in. Combined with Arari's striking blonde twin tails and Miharu's ethereal beauty, they made an unusual but captivating group. It doesn't matter what people think, Miharu said calmly. Food is meant to be enjoyed. I know that. Arari mumbled, poking at her crepe again. Okifumi chuckled, deciding to change the subject before Arari combusted. So, Arari, since you chose the cafe, do you have plans for where to go next? Arari perked up immediately, her earlier frustration replaced by a smug expression. Actually, yes. We're going to Akihabara. Oh? Okifumi raised an eyebrow. I thought you'd prefer somewhere more refined, like an art gallery or museum. Arari huffed. I love art, but Akihabara has everything. Manga, anime merch, gin stores, and most importantly arcades. Okifumi finished, smirking. TCH, obviously. Arari crossed her arms. I need my rematch against you. Miharu tilted her head slightly. Akihabara? I've never been there. I'd love to visit sometime. You've never been? Arari asked, surprised. Remembering what Okifumi had shared about Miharu's strict parents, she felt a pang of sympathy for her friend. A brief silence fell over the table. Miharu stared at her half-eaten crepe, her usual serene expression faltering for just a moment. The mention of never visiting Akihabara seemed to have reminded her parent. Arari's sharp eyes didn't miss this. She fidgeted with her fork before suddenly slamming her hands on the table, making the plates clatter. Alright, that's it, she announced, startling both Miharu and Okifumi. Arari? Miharu blinked up at her. We're not just going to Akihabara, Arari declared, her voice unusually earnest. We're going to do everything. The arcades, the maid cafes, the gin shops, especially the gin shops. She pointed dramatically at Miharu. And you're going to try Purikura for the first time. Miharu's eyes widened. But this is for Mugi no buts. Arari plowed on, her cheeks slightly pink. I'll even let you pick out a stupid matching charm for our phones or whatever girls do. She crossed her arms and looked away. I mean, if you want to. Okifumi watched in amusement as Arari's usual tsundere act crumbled under genuine concern. He chimed in, It's okay Miharu, it sounds like Arari's planning the ultimate Akihabara experience for you. Miharu looked between them, her lips trembling slightly before breaking into a soft, genuine smile, the kind that reached her eyes. Thank you, Arari and Mugio-kun. That sounds really wonderful. Arari's face burned crimson. It's nothing special. Just, you shouldn't miss out on Japanese culture, that's all. She aggressively stuffed a bite of crepe in her mouth to avoid saying more. Okifumi caught Miharu's eye and gave her a warm, knowing smile. Then it's settled, Okifumi declared, stretching his arms. First, we finish these delicious crepes, then we explore the wonders of Akihabara. The streets of Akihabara were as lively as ever, lined with towering billboards featuring anime characters, neon-lit store signs, and cosplayers handing out flyers for themed cafes. Arari led the way, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she took in the sights. See? Isn't his place amazing? Arari said proudly, turning back to Okifumi and Miharu. You can find anything here. Miharu looked around, fascinated by the sheer energy of the district. It's certainly different from where I usually go. Okifumi chuckled. Yeah, I don't think normal part of Japan and Akihabara exactly go hand in hand. Miharu gave him a light pout. Are you implying I don't belong here? Not at all. Okifumi grinned. If anything, the contrast makes you stand out more. Though I wouldn't mind seeing you in that maid costume from the school festival again. That was a sight to behold. Miharu's cheeks reddened slightly, and she looked away. You always say the most embarrassing things. Only because your reactions are adorable. Okifumi teased. Arari groaned. Can you focus? This is sacred ground. Okifumi laughed. Fine, fine. Where to next, leader? Arari smirked. The arcade, of course. Time to show off my skills. They entered one of Akihabara's largest arcades, filled with flashing lights and the sound of buttons being rapidly pressed. Arari wasted no time rushing to the fighting game section, determined to prove her prowess. Alright, Okifumi. Let's see who's better. Arari declared, selecting her character. Okifumi smiled confidently and picked his own. The match began, and within moments, he landed a devastating combo, taking down Arari's character in record time. Arari gawked at the screen. What just happened? Okifumi smirked. You really thought you could beat me? You still need 500 more years to defeat me. TCH. That was just a fluke. One more. One rematch turned into several, and each time, Akifumi emerged victorious. Miharu, watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but giggle. You're surprisingly competitive, Ariri. Miharu said, covering her mouth politely. Ariri slumped over the arcade machine. This is so unfair. Akifumi patted her head. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're cute when you pout like that. Ariri swatted his hand away, face red. Ugh, I hate you. Miharu smiled softly. You two really do get along well. Akifumi turned to Miharu, his teasing nature kicking in again. Want to have a turn? Maybe I'll go easy on you. Miharu narrowed her eyes playfully. I don't need you to go easy on me. Oh? Akifumi smirked. Then let's see what you've got. As the match began, Akifumi couldn't help but think this was turning out to be a perfect day.